everybody, and welcome to another episode of Autodidactica. I am one half of your host, Matt Paul,
I'm the other half of your host, Glenn Clark, the better half, the smellier
arguably
half,
so.
the
Um,
sexier half.
Today for the first time ever, we have guests
Right.
Yay.
on Autodidactica. You can see, if you're watching on YouTube, one of our guests, and that is Brittany.
Brittany.
I
And
believe I believe I pronounced that correct.
KJ Fields is the invisible one if you're watching on YouTube. But if you're just listening to the podcast in its purest audio form, it doesn't make a difference. They're both invisible and so are we. And we can't see you either, so it's mutual.
Yeah.
I'm President Spear.
Right. He is officially Schrodinger's cat.
Right, and he's having all the technical issues tonight. So, um,
Yeah, we even had one other guest plan and technical issues, for lack of a better term, also shut that one down.
right.
Um, Technology's hard,
I really
you
do
know.
hope that I don't disappear right now.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I
He
uh,
think
sounds
that
like
all the
a
time.
a child's imaginary friend. Uh,
KJ, our imaginary friend, is slowly vanishing. He's fading as we
and
find new interests in
I'm
Tonight
still
life.
here. You can hear
on
me
this
still.
podcast, we have the privilege of
Oh, you can't hear
talking
me.
about
That's
privilege,
freaking
the
yeah.
very light topic of
Okay, I'm
white
gonna keep
privilege living in
touching.
America.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
So
done
like,
trying this shit.
Right. Oh, KJ's muttering like an old man. What is Right. Our
Um,
top so that's why we have guests tonight because the topic is white privilege. Um
and for
and
those of
we
you watching on YouTube, you might see two very pale faces staring at a screen.
right. And we thought it was better to not have a discussion about race with just one race present.
right.
One race, quotation marks, because human is our race, if you want to
Right.
get technical and scientific about it.
Yeah.
Skin tones that are socially considered to be races.
Yeah.
So,
I am melanin deficient.
right, we're
Um,
melanin deficient.
Apart
Put
from
us in
the
the sun, we
pigment that I
die. We die.
pay people to needle into my body, this is where I'm at. Um, and So if you tuned in last week, we did a fun one, much lighter than white privilege in America, and we did a cinema. Is
Right.
cinema a dying art? Is true cinema a dying art? So if you
Right.
That's
missed
fine.
that one, it was a blast. Um, that should be going up here pretty soon if it
Yeah,
hasn't
I mean,
already.
by the time this one's up, it will be up. And this one
Yeah,
goes up
true.
on June 19th. So,
A very apt day.
So if you're watching this on June 19th, congratulations. We're in the present with you. Tomorrow, we'll be in the past. It's pretty
True,
exciting.
true. A lot can happen between
Even
then
though,
and now.
but we're kind of rambling. So, so I guess let's just get right to it. White privilege. Ain't it cool? Um,
Ain't it fun?
isn't it great for me that I have white privilege? How do you feel about No, okay. Let's first of all define white privilege. How does everyone here define white privilege?
Who wants
And
to go
Um,
first?
I'll kind of give like an example of what I think it is. Um,
Wonderful.
so let's just say we take a group of people and let's say 85% of them lose their memory. And then we drop them on a baseball field. And we put all of the white people or white appearing people on second and third base and all of the brown people on first base. We tell them to run a race that is impossible, not impossible, improbable for the brown people to make it home in the time given.
Mhm.
Um, and so most of these people don't know that they have an advantage. Some of them do know, some of them use it. Um, but the people least likely to have the advantage or finish the race are brown, just
Mm.
because of the systemic racism.
Hmm. Okay.
Well
And
said.
so, yeah, I think that's probably a good way to put it, in a way where people don't, because a lot of times when you bring it up, people feel, oh no, I've had a hard life. I haven't been privileged at all, but it doesn't have anything to do with,
Mm.
difficulties in life or wealth. It is just set up that way based on skin color in a country that is racist.
Right.
Right.
Okay. KJ, what about you?
Yeah, I feel like it's like basically just the benefit of the majority. Like I feel like it's the privilege of having been the victor of so many, like the ideology of white people has been like majorly spread, and it becomes like the main thing to be, and it sets the precedent for the way that everyone else should act and look, and the fact that like only white people get to participate in that inherently is the privilege. It's like the privilege of like creating the dynamic like societal structure, and black people are kind of ostracized and separated from it purposefully because of slavery, but also just the like mental like ideology behind being the majority, and like people that are outside of the group are always ostracized, and it just happens that black I mean, white people are the extreme majority as well.
Interesting.
Mm. Right.
Yeah,
What
no,
about
I mean
you?
that I made a note on that one because that already that touched on a sort of a because white privilege, we're going to talk about that a lot. But there's tons of stuff that goes along with it. Like Brittany mentioned, systemic racism, like institutionalized
Hmm.
racism in our within our country, and sort of what KJ was touching on there was a lot of like cultural appropriation and diffusion, whereas the colonizers made this culture and so then installed themselves at the pinnacle of that culture and then
Mhm.
drives the culture forward and then
Right.
And kind of
ostracizes
like
the
Right. So
outsider.
prevented, yeah,
everything is
they
skewed in the favor of
restricted
the
black people
powerful.
from it, and like made these things the indicators of like wealth and like prosperity.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. I mean, so for my definition, I came up with I think white privilege, like at its core, is like the cultural idea that, man, I had this a lot better in my head and in all of our discussions.
That's how it always goes.
Um,
Yeah.
or it's a phenomenon. Did I do that right?
You
A
did. You
singular
Yeah.
always question.
phenomena is a
Yeah,
phenomenon. Okay,
phenomenon. That's
I'm never
singular.
gonna get it
That's
right.
you
So
always
it's
get
a
it right, but
phenomenon
question yourself.
where that can only. This was my sort of where I boiled everything down to. It's the cultural phenomenon where it's never race is never going to be an issue for me. Like my life isn't more difficult because of my skin color. And so like in all aspects of life, one thing I never have to worry about is that, and that in of itself or in essence is the privilege.
That's a
Um,
really, I'm glad that you say that.
and so, it's never going to, stop me from getting a job. It's never going to stop me from all the hardships within my life are just not made harder. It's not that I have,
Mhm.
a silver spoon or anything like that. Just, I don't have any inherent great advantage, but anything I do have to overcome will not be made more difficult. And so that is pretty much how I would define it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, mine's it's very similar because I guess it's same point of view. But to me it's kind of like you are, I guess, systemically right-handed, where everything is designed in our society for white people. It's like if you're not white, it's you have to fight to be have thing you have to fight for a left-handed catcher's mitt. You know,
Yeah,
like it's because all the catcher's mitts are made for right-handed people. You know, it's like, and people are like, well, just use a right-handed catcher's mitt. You know, just you have the same access to right-handed catcher's mitt as all the right-handed people do. Stop complaining. It's all equal. You have access to,
right.
but you don't. It's
Good
not,
point.
yeah, it's not designed for
It's more
anyone.
expensive, and you have to go further to find it.
That's
Hmm.
very true. Same thing with guitars, to relate the
Right, yeah.
same
Everything is
analogy.
made for what
Left-handed
right-handed
guitars
people.
are way
Yeah,
harder to find, way more
right.
expensive. Usually you have to pay a premium.
Hmm.
And your guitar teacher will make fun of you too. Um,
Right,
yeah,
right.
I had a left-handed guitarist in my class full of 18 other guitarists at
Hmm.
GHS, and my guitar teacher gave him so much shit. And it was
Oh my
just
God.
uh,
Right,
he's like, "Hey, you're
right.
holding that wrong."
Okay.
Jeez.
And so I
Yeah,
guess that
it's
could probably be correlated to casual racism.
hmm
Mhm.
And
right, because you don't understand the struggle of a left-handed person trying to play guitar, even on a left-handed guitar.
right,
So, yeah, so to me, I mean, that's what it is. It's like everything is in the society that we live in is it favors white people. It's designed for white people. If you want to get super specific, it's designed for white Christian men, straight
That's
white
correct.
Christian men.
Yeah, I was like
But
for that one.
White
Yeah.
Christian
right,
men, wealthy white Christian men, landowning white
wealthy,
Christian men.
straight, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, the
you
list goes
narrow
on.
it
There is the
down,
pinnacle
but
out there.
but out of all those, we're talking specifically about skin tone and the privilege that comes therewith. And to me, I've always said that white privilege is not knowing that you have white privilege. It's like you're just in the world. This is the way the world works.
Hey, don't you have a
Uh,
quote right behind you, pretty much that says that?
Oh,
I was
right.
gonna ask what
Does
that
it? What does
says.
that say?
Privilege when you think something is not a problem because it's not a problem to privilege is when you think something is not a problem because it's not a problem to you.
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
Oh,
Quite a
Welcome back, Glenn.
oh, thank you. But yeah, so all that said, I want to quickly go over, I wouldn't call it the right answer. It's the
Yeah, you're all wrong.
yeah, no wrong. Like we're all wrong. No, but it's just kind of the
definitive version.
more definitive, I guess, just kind of the
Webster's
black
dictionary,
and white, so to speak,
written by a white
definition.
man.
Um, so let me see where I put that.
But I mean, white privilege assumes that white people have gotten to dictate the definition of their privilege. So, is it? No, I'm just kidding.
True, but did they? Like, who actually coined the term
That's a good
white
question.
privilege? I'm
I think
curious.
it started cropping up. I mean, around the advent of social media, I would
Oh,
say.
that's crazy.
Or
W.E.B.
has
Du
it been around
Bois.
longer? Like the term surely has been around longer. Like I would assume it was someone who wasn't white who came up with that term. That's something we can
W.E.B.
look
Du Bois
up.
in the
We are in the
1930s
future.
discussed the psychological wage where even poor whites could feel superior to poor blacks.
Wait, who was that?
W.E.B. Du Bois.
Oh, okay. That's a long time ago.
And white privilege is most widely associated with Peggy McIntosh, a feminist activist and scholar. She brought the concept of the concept to prominence in 1988 with an influential essay, "White Privilege: Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack."
Hmm.
Okay, nice. And now we know. So do we have pictures of these people? Were they white? Were they not white?
Peggy is
I
white.
know,
W.E.B. Du Bois is like a really prolific black writer.
yeah, him I knew he was black. The girl I didn't know. Peggy? What was her
Peggy
Peggy
name?
McIntosh.
McIntosh.
Peggy McIntosh. She's an
Peggy
American
McIntosh.
activist and
Yeah.
orator. It looks like she is 90 currently. She's born in
Dang.
1934.
Wow.
Wow, good for her. Okay, cool. That
Privilege.
answers that question. Okay, so
So
here
at
are some
least around the
common,
1930s.
yeah, since at least the 1930s, we've had the term white privilege, and pointed out by a black man. That's what I was thinking, because a white person is ignorant to their privilege. That's part of the privilege.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it didn't seem like to me a white person would have come up with that term because they had to be like, I mean, I'll tell you all a story in a minute, but here are some common examples of white privilege. And I'm just going to read through these real quick so that they're injected into the conversation. We don't have to discuss each one of these at length or anything. So white privilege, access to resources. White people may have greater access to better schools, safe neighborhoods, and opportunities for financial stability. Greater representation in media. White individuals are often more prominently featured in media, leading to a sense of normalcy and belonging. Increased opportunities. White individuals may find it easier to secure jobs, housing, and other opportunities compared to people of color. Lack of discrimination. White people may face less discrimination in various aspects of life, including employment, housing, and interactions with law enforcement. Freedom from racial profiling. White people are less likely to be stopped or searched by law enforcement based on their race. Easier access to products and services. White individuals may find it easier to find products and services that cater to their skin tone or hair type. Being able to assume safety. White people may feel more secure when walking alone. While people of color may be more concerned about being followed or harassed. And lastly, being able to express oneself without fear. White individuals may feel more comfortable expressing their opinions or sharing their experiences without fear of being marginalized or judged based on their race. If some of those popped out and I was thinking of examples I've seen in my head, like greater representation in media. Like I was
Yeah.
rewatching Boy Meets World, that sitcom from like the 90s on the Disney or Disney Plus. And
Yeah.
like having been so long since I saw that show as a younger human being, I was amazed at like how white that show was. Like I was watching like the first season of it and I'm like every single person that goes to this school is white. Every
Yeah.
single teacher is white. And
Yeah.
then, I think season two, that's about as far as I got. But there were like maybe two or three black students in the mix of extras, but they didn't have dialogue. And I know later in that show, they brought in prominent black characters, but it was just shocking to me because white privilege, I didn't notice that the first time I saw that show.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that there were only white people because it was just normal. But any other thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, the way
Yeah.
that that shows up with racism is that like you notice that like the show is all white, but it
Hmm.
starts to create this idea to everybody that's watching the show that this is how all white people are and this is how people are supposed to behave. This is what happens. And then when you see a show where they do introduce black people and they've got like this different stereotype of what black people are, then they
Mm.
assume if they don't know any black people that that's how all black people are. And sometimes in media representation, a lot of black people show up as thug or criminal. And
Hmm.
so, or, when it comes to women, they're overly sexualized.
Hmm.
And so it all kind of just plays this role in racism that a lot of times people don't even know is happening.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say you guys were saying that like you kind of don't notice some of these things like as aspects of racism, and that's like the privilege of the many. I feel like a lot of aspects of racism are like it makes it hard to address racism because like when your experience is so far from like what you're like being heard represented from someone else, it makes it hard to accept that reality that someone else faces. And I feel like
Hmm.
that is, like you said, a part of racism. Um, and I feel like the casual racism thing you were saying, like where people kind of,
Make little
I feel
jabs,
like, yeah, and not even necessarily little jabs, like
make light.
yeah, I feel like not even just making light. I feel like there are really, really accidental ways of, and I don't want to say racism necessarily because I feel like it kind of it ostracizes people again to feel that like because racism is such a strong word, and although
Hmm.
like there are a lot of actions and things that people do that like is racist or can come off as racist, it's like not like when you say that to someone it feels like an attack itself,
Right.
even though it like
Right.
may not be intended to be, but like
Hmm.
because you
Yeah.
exist in a bubble that is like the privilege of a racist society, like it does feel like that way, but you don't see that like
Yeah.
barrier
Hmm.
on the other side of like people's lives. um
Right.
I was gonna say, and not to call anyone out, but um
No, do call people
for
out.
example and I think she's a good example because she is such a nice person and I am black. You can't see that, but I am, I swear.
You are
um
allegedly black.
yeah,
I mean, the
allegedly.
screen is very black, like right where you're.
um
So, I mean,
But for example, there's a lady that I work with that the most lovely person,
mhm,
um and I would never assume or even believe that she had intentions of harm. But something that I noticed is that she plays music and it's like always white people like on the songs. And for it like
and white privilege, I never noticed that, and I know who you're talking about.
and it's crazy to
Like,
me because I feel like the strangest part is, and I was talking to my girlfriend Anna about it. It's crazy to me because I hear songs by black artists, but it's a white person singing it. And I was telling Anna like that doesn't
What?
seem like a racist thing to do, but it becomes like a weird feeling of like you like the thing but you don't like the
hmm
representation, and like you guys were saying you just don't see very many. And my example is the Santa Claus movies. Like that was my like thing growing up, and like for me growing up I didn't really feel or really perceive race as much because of like the like school that I went to and like the neighborhood I grew up in. I didn't really perceive
hmm
it, but that was one thing that like you see mostly white people, and I feel like white people don't intend to separate black people from their lives, but it's just that like it's so easy to do because like we are appropriated and used. And I say like in a lot of ways, like black people's biggest plight is like to not be a battery towards the system that like subjugates us. But like it's kind
to
of
not fuel the system.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But it's kind of difficult because it's like you are prompted to, like Brittany said, be more black and represent what you are supposed to represent rather than being like, and even if you do, they will just take like a more pretty version of it like Elvis to show you
Yeah.
because you can't present the beauty behind. And it's weird to me because it is beautiful music and it's from
Uh-huh.
us, but you don't want to see the person that created it, which
Right.
is where the pain and beauty is derived from, which makes it so such a gorgeous song. But you do
Yeah.
want to feel the feeling of the art that is created from that like pain of existing in a black life.
Right.
Right, right. So I mean, so you're referencing, I think you referenced in there Elvis appropriating rock and roll, basically. And
Yeah.
when the Santa Claus movies, could you expand upon that?
Tim
I'm
Allen.
not familiar.
Yeah,
Tim
it's just
Allen?
crazy that I
Like,
it's just crazy like
uh,
there's just no black people. Like there's
no,
like one
none
or
in the
two at the
movie.
office party I feel like, but like
Hmm.
it just like when I got old, when I was younger, it's and that's what I was trying to say like I feel like I
Hmm
experienced a lot of privilege of, and I'm black, I swear, but I experience a lot of privilege that like as I get older, I see things that like I didn't see when I was younger because I
Yeah.
assume myself as a part of the society that I grew up around. And like I was only
Right.
exposed to like more, I guess, stereotypical black behavior when I was around my family members, but in my school and with my friends, it was more like what I saw on the screen. But I never saw myself on the screen, but I never realized that until I got older. And now when I look back and I see, I love those movies because I felt like so attached to like what Christmas is, and that looks like my
Uh-huh.
family. But there are
Yeah.
no black people in that movie that like actually represent me. And like when I look at like,
Mhm.
and it's way better now. It's crazy how many people that I see of all, and I don't mean just black people. I want to see what I look at when I go to the store because there are so many Indian, Asian, and like
Right.
all shapes and
Right.
sizes, colors of
So much
people in
diversity.
my world. But like
Right.
when I look at stuff from like pre 2012, really, like there's
Yeah,
just
Hmm.
right
not
around
that
then.
very good. You just don't see black. It's like black people just aren't. And I didn't realize
Yeah.
that I don't see them because I didn't see myself as something missing until I got older and was like, oh
Right.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
definitely black. And like, although these people mimic my relatively around what my life is like, they
Hmm.
they're not me. Like, this is not how my life looks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with when it comes to media representation, one of the things that's important to understand really is that oftentimes what is portrayed in the media by character is like an exaggeration of the character, what does the character represent?
Hmm.
And so when you have like, the token black guy on the show and he's
Hmm.
just a walking stereotype
Yeah.
Right.
and
Like South
he's
Park has a character whose name is Token, and he's the black guy at the school.
right, right. And so, you just have that character enter in there. And so all of these white people that are on the screen too are all falsifications of what real life is. And
Hmm.
then, but when white people watch it, they see themselves and they glorify it. And then a
Yeah.
black person walks in, and to Brittany's point, they're like, that is their exposure to black people is
Yeah.
Hmm.
that guy
That
on
guy,
the
that
screen.
token.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Right.
token.
Right.
And, so it's important to have like genuinely well-written characters from
Hmm.
people who, if not are black, there should be black input in there at
Right.
the
Right.
very least, but also just try to make them a character rather than trying to take black and make a character into
I
it.
feel like
Right.
a
Right.
lot of the like I feel like it's a really weird dynamic between because for example like the DEI
Oh, here we go.
policies
Yeah.
Oh
are like
Lord.
to me this is my perception on that like the state the country that we live in like the state is
Hmm.
primarily white and that's another privilege of the victor um and because of that it is just gonna be more white people available to choose from and like the
Right.
percentage of efficacy or like I guess their like ability is just as varied as like the black section of people. There's just less black people to choose from. So like if
Hmm.
the number is literally exactly like in the same ratio, there would just be a like smaller quantity of black people available because and even more so because we live in a racist society where like it is less likely to have graduated college if you are black systemically
Hmm.
like just in general
Yep,
and
then
because of
wage
that
gaps and all that.
yeah, exactly. And
Just
so
all
like
the
you
institutionalized differences.
yeah, and
Yeah.
like another thing is that like you don't see yourself in positions of like maybe an actor. You feel that if you are an actor, you won't be like Troy Bolton. You have to be like one of the characters in Juice. You know what I mean? You have to be
Yeah.
like you're the black guy in the show. You're not just a guy in the show. You're the one black guy. And I feel like
Hmm.
there's only gonna be so many that make it, and if you do make it, it's only you, and you get like put into a box, and it's because like we fill the rest of the surroundings with like the other 60%, and it's weird because like how do you balance that in a way that's equitable for both sides that doesn't feel like it's taking away from white people, as in like you have to be removed because you're white, and we don't want our cast to have as many white people, and we have to put black people that maybe their acting isn't up to par, but we just need it to look like this. And I feel like that is the struggle of DEI. Like, how do we not have a
Right.
token while also making it look like this is just what life looks like? And also that people expect and want to be entertained and see things that like are easy to digest, and like to not to like assume to white people, but like it's I assume because the representation is made so frequently, it like has to be like a token. Like this guy
Yeah.
is like this because he's black. He's not just a guy and his skin is black and he's a nerd and he does this or that. This is like
Uh-huh.
the black character, and he's like comes from this path, and this is what his past is like, and his mom and this, and like it's the black guy. Whereas like I feel
Mm.
like that is the racist part. Like because
Yeah.
I experienced some like I guess stereotypical black struggles, but at the same time, like I said, to a very late age, I felt like, yeah, these people have the exact same life as me. We have Christmas like that, and that's what it looks like, and we all get together and whatnot, and that looks like
Yeah.
about how I was Charlie. You know what I mean? Until I got older, and I was like, oh yeah, no, yeah, my house is much smaller. Actually, it's not even a house anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but you get
So,
pigeonholed into this is the black experience.
mhm. And so I guess what I'm hearing you say about DEI is that it may be a disservice in a way, like that it I guess what you were saying at the beginning there was there are more white people than black people, right? And
Yeah,
so and there are fewer black people who, like, what I heard you saying is there are fewer black people who would make it to being qualified. It's like you take that number and make it smaller.
yeah.
Is
Like
that
even if
what you
we
were
had the
saying?
same number of
Hmm.
the exact same number of people, I
Yeah.
mean, like the
Yeah,
statistic,
he's
and like
talking so like not to interrupt, but what I
no,
heard
yeah,
was like if there's 100 people and statistically 15 of those people are black, 5 people are Asian, one person is American Indian, the rest are white Caucasian.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then you say 15% of all of the people are qualified to be air traffic controllers. Well, then that comes out to about one of those 15, 1.5 of those 15 black people. And whereas it comes out to 15 white Caucasians. So there are like less black people, just blanket statistic percentage wise,
Uh-huh.
that would be qualified for that. And
yeah.
Well, and so
And so, yeah,
what you're saying is that being the case, then it's more likely that unqualified people, it's more like you're agreeing with Trump, right? Like that there are more likely to be unqualified black people in positions who are hired just because they were black.
yes. But my conjecture to that as well, on top of that, is that's the problem with DEI, because it's not a matter of and I give you this example personally,
Hmm.
Glenn, like it's not a matter of picking like the example of picking apples and oranges like in an orchard, and like when you're picking wherever you pick oranges from, I actually don't know. Um an orange tree. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
pretty sure they grow on trees.
if you're having like at the end, you're having the option, and I know it's like partially population, but as well, there's a lot of problems with like the support of inner city schools, and like you can literally just drive around and see in the neighborhood closest to you that looks like you wouldn't want your kid walking around there alone.
Right.
Mhm.
You can see it for yourself, and like if you're having at the end of your picking like only 4 oranges and 30 apples, like it's not a problem with the picking process, like that are getting chosen for which ones we're gonna put on the shelf. I mean, it's not a problem with the picking process when you're choosing which ones are gonna go on the shelf. When you have the 30 apples and the 4 oranges, the problem is somewhere before we had the 30 apples and the four, like why are so many oranges just not making it to the choosing process? And I feel like
Mm.
that is more like to the point of why DEI is meaningless, because it's like, even if we shove unqualified Black people to have the representation, the problem is not that we want to see ourselves more inherent. That's not the root problem. The problem is we won't and can't see ourselves more because of all these other problems. And I feel like that's this distinction that I feel like makes white people feel like there's some kind of assault against them, because it's like, I don't perpetrate anything against anyone, and yet there's this persistent problem facing these people that like they can't seem to find
Hmm.
a way around. And Black people don't know who else to blame. And it's like percentages and systems that create an environment where like you don't want to make the excuse, you can't really make the excuse, but like the reality is present and there are no other oranges next to you when you're in that spot. And then you are left with no power to say, I am just as much of an apple as an orange, and I am not like dragged behind by the fact that I got here by whatever means I got here. None of it represents all of who I am. Like,
Mm.
Amen.
like
I
I'm still
have a
just as
lot
Black,
to
and I'm
say
still
about. I
just
have.
as like privileged as like I got here because I got here. And it's not that I got
Okay.
here because I was shoved here, but
Yeah.
like the reason there are no one no is no there is no other oranges next to me is like an indicator of the picking process. It's the school
Hmm.
systems, it's the lack of healthcare, it's the lack of um the highway literally cuts off so much of like the access to the rest of society. It feels like the grocery
Okay.
store is so far away. You have
Yeah.
to either walk like over 5 miles with bags of groceries, or you have to have a car, which puts you even further behind, possibly. Like there are so many
Hmm.
Possibly,
barriers to
but
entry
yeah.
to
Okay. So
become.
Brittany, what
Let
do
me
you
step
say you have
in
a
here.
lot to say to that?
Yeah.
That's a
Oh,
lot.
I have a lot. Just let me give you a little bit of my background because I came from one of those neighborhoods. I come from West Memphis, Arkansas, grew up 10 minutes across the bridge from Memphis, Tennessee. It is not a place that anybody would want to live or feel safe.
Mm.
Um, I came from one of those places and I now make six figures. I have a degree. Um, a lot of people that I meet that look like me, that are in the same spaces as me, come from those places too. So we still make it there. We still are
Hmm.
often more qualified than the oranges sitting in the building.
Hmm.
That's why they feel threatened.
Yeah.
Mm.
There are people that I work with now, and the two brown girls that are making the six figures and more qualified have the degrees, have the resumes, have the connections.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. And
So
to
that
boil
that is
them
what
down
they're
to
afraid of
DEI is
because
rude.
they came from college. They didn't graduate. They found somebody, married them, and then they knew someone who worked for the company that got them the job, and they're not qualified to be there.
Hmm.
But they're
That is
there.
that is usually the case.
Yeah.
Even when I worked at Facets, that was the case. I was the only person on the showroom floor with a design degree.
Hmm.
The only
Oh,
person.
really?
The
Really?
only
That's crazy.
person. And guess what? My other half still makes $80,000 more than me with no degree and no experience in a showroom when he started working in a showroom.
Hmm.
And I feel like
Wow.
that
Wow. And
is,
your other half being a white
yeah.
man.
A white man.
Hmm.
And I feel like that is a part of the like you can witness that and see that, but when you put it like on a grand scale to the majority, it looks like, oh well, you can still. And that's the
Oh,
difficult,
oh
if you are
yeah.
speaking about this problem in a way that is aware and like educated, it makes it seem that, well, you did it, so. But that's why we
Yeah.
always have to say, I'm a
Yeah.
representation of something that is not like approachable for most people. And that doesn't mean that I'm special, it means that the system prevents special people from like
Ever
seeping
seeing
through
it.
the crack. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
Yeah.
here's the
The
thing.
fight and the
Um,
luck you have to have is like is different, a different set of issues.
I think that we have to normalize like networking being a way for us to kind of get those bootstraps that they want
Yeah.
everybody to pull themselves up by, because that's really what did that for me. It wasn't my resume, it wasn't my degree, it wasn't the fact that I'd worked for a freelance designer. None of those things got me in the building more so than knowing a person that I had built a relationship with that was white.
And
Yeah.
I
That's
feel
what
Hmm.
like
got
You
me
that
know,
the
is
job.
another aspect of like it's like I was saying before, it's like show us that you are one of the good ones. And then you know what I mean? Like I feel like to Brittany that is basically showing that like it's not about whether you can actually do the thing, it's about what you look like when you're doing it.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people who meet me every day who, and I'm telling you, like they assume, like they see my Razorback on the desk and they see my coworker's cowbell on her desk, and they're like, "Oh, did you go to college?" Like they ask us, there's like this assumption that, hey, we just have these mascots on our desk
Right.
for no
Right.
reason.
Yeah,
yeah.
because
I
But
mean,
they
if
wouldn't
we were
ask, you're
white,
saying they wouldn't ask a white person, did you go to
they would not.
college if they
They
see
they do
that?
not. They assume already that they did go to college. They assume already when they meet them, they're an expert in the subject. We have to
Hmm.
prove ourselves daily, still now,
Hmm.
yeah. And I think
even
Casual.
though
like
I've
with
been doing the
DEI,
job for 14 years.
yeah, I mean, when the problem with DEI is that it's dangerous to codify it, sort of to what KJ was saying, is like if you try to stick too stringently to like a codified DEI, you may end up with, underqualified people. But if you don't make it a point, and that's the thing with DEI in general, is it's never been like there's never been quotas. Like we have to hire this many black people. The extent that DEI has reached in this country is simply like little mandates and memos to be like, hey, when you see a resume, don't just look at the name and say, oh, it's different than John, so
Hmm.
I'm not going to look at it as thoroughly. And, removing DEI from everything as far as like what Trump's doing is sort of like a moot point, but it also takes away the one little step of progress
Hmm.
towards
I don't
at
actually
least
feel like
looking at like
Right.
other resumes, and
Right. Always. Oh, go on. I'm not trying to cut you
no, no,
off.
that's pretty much it.
Okay, because
Like,
like,
just examples like,
Yeah,
more ethnic names are passed over
hmm,
in resume
right,
piles for
yeah,
job applications over names like
right,
Matthew and Glenn.
yeah.
And
versus Karik. But
I've been interviewed over the phone and had people assume that I was white, and
I
you
was
could see their
wondering,
faces like fall when I meet them in person.
that's
I
crazy.
had one interviewer basically not ask me one single interview question, tell me that she was thankful for my service in the military, give me a tour of the showroom, and walk me out the door.
damn.
wow, when it
And
went
Um,
well on the
yeah,
phone previously.
and when everything went perfectly well over the phone previously, and I was there to basically get a job offer. That is how she treated me when she saw me.
Wow.
yeah, and I feel like that's something that, like, again, as a white person,
It wouldn't
you would
happen.
never, yeah, not that it wouldn't happen, you would never get to see that part of reality. Like,
Yeah,
that's
that's
Right.
true.
something
Yeah.
that you never see and witness and say to
Right.
yourself, that's like what race you and you go through your whole life. And like again, I said the privilege of being white is not having to address or feel like any underlying or overlying pressure on you to change your like I say a lot like
You don't
black
have that
people.
chip on your shoulder.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And like for Brittany, like you've kind of gotten to a place of success that people aspire to. And for black people, it doesn't end there. Like you don't buy the house and like establish your life. I don't know if you can relate, Brittany, but like you all like to me, I have so many people that like need so much support that
yeah.
like not even just people that are related to me, yeah, plenty, but as well just the general group of people that look like me from where I'm from. I'm also from Memphis, Brittany. Um,
Oh. Cool.
from where I'm from that aren't able to like see the kind of world that I'm able to like. I brought my friend from Memphis here out of college like a year. I just left college. I didn't actually graduate, but we brought him here and like the whole time his eyes were like falling out of his head because you just see stuff that you would never see in the city. And I feel like to
Yeah.
that end, it's our responsibility and duty to spread the welfare of our people. Whereas like white people, that privilege is that you can just buy a house in a nice neighborhood and you would never have to care about anyone else's struggle if you didn't want to. You wouldn't have to see it. You can watch a version of the news that you want to see, and you would
Right.
never have to accept that Brittany just got walked out of a job interview for really
Yeah,
no
I
reason.
literally never
Really?
think about furthering the agenda of white people.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
exactly.
I'm never like that's my white brother
Right.
across the street. Let me make
Right.
sure he,
Right.
Right.
Because you
I'm never
don't,
like
Exactly.
carrying
you
the
don't.
whole weight of my race on my back. I'm
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
like, man, that guy's an asshole. Like, like, and I can just say that,
Right.
and you know,
Oh,
and
I've heard
I
people
never,
go ahead.
yeah, yeah, no, I mean, I just never have to, you know, think about, you know, making sure I'm, doing good for my race and
Yeah.
Right.
making sure
Right.
that I, am representing my race. I mean, I do try to represent my race by not being a bigot. That's about the best I can do,
Right. And that's
by
more
But
like
just
that's
course
not
correct.
raising racist children and heart, you know, and fostering racist friends and whatnot. Like, you know, I've cut people out of my life because I told them I was like, "Hey, stop saying that word,"
Oh God. I know.
and and then they just keep doing it. I'm just like, well, I'm not. Done told you I'm not going to hang out with you anymore. You need to check yourself. And you know, I've got friends that if you came around them, they'd all have a problem with you. And so,
Mm.
unless you check yourself and see the issues with, you know, how you're carrying yourself, then uh, we'll no longer be associating. And yeah, I've definitely
Well,
lost friends that way. And it's not like I was like, we're no longer friends. I just sort of ghosted them, and you know, I was like,
yeah.
they're gonna keep being ignorant and going about their
Yeah.
lives like that.
Well, that
Absolutely.
that I think is one of the if there is a struggle regarding white privilege for white people, it's only for woke white people, and the struggle is trying to wake other people up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the people with privilege, whether they acknowledge or know that they have privilege, and they've got to know, but whether or not they acknowledge it consciously, they are afraid to lose that privilege. They don't want to open their eyes. They don't want to be woke. They don't want to hear what you're saying about reality. Talking about the hiring process and such. Like two stories came to mind that were absolutely polar opposites. That, when I was a manager in a bookstore, well, I was an assistant manager, and the manager, I thought he was a complete racist, and it's because the way we did have like racial quotas, like you have to hire X number at minimum of this race or that race, because no, and the thing is, like, if that weren't in place, this guy would have only hired white people, and I could tell that by the black people he hired because like white people were scrutinized when they brought their resume in. Questions were asked. Black people, if he was the one doing the interviews, they would just be hired. Like he hired a black person who did not know what a book was. I'm not joking. And because and to me, that tells me he's assuming that's the best he's going to get. But before he
Yeah.
came there, we had a black guy working there who was a lawyer. He was in law school. And I'm like, yo, black people can read, dude. Like, you don't just
It didn't have
hire,
to be that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and no,
right.
and
You
maybe
can,
he was just
you're going to
hiring the
have,
first one because he could fire them just as fast.
maybe, but it's like, and he hired a couple of black people who were just completely incompetent. And I was like, you don't believe that you're going to find a competent black person, do you? That's why you do this. On the other hand, I was working at the church, and I don't think you can tell from this that I have my hair is a bit long. So I worked at this church, and So they were interviewing for a position, I think the the community outreach director or whatever title it was. Who was also supposed to do programs in the church and stuff to reach out to the community. And so there were two candidates that they were mulling over. And one of them, they told, because they came to me with this problem because they were looking for an excuse. So one of them was a black man, one of them was a white woman. And they said, um, so the black man is much more qualified and it's just he's got this hair, he's got really long dreadlocks, and so they wanted me to validate what they were trying to do, and they're like, so you've gotten a lot of trouble over your hair here, right? And I was like, nope, nobody but my dad has ever had a problem with my hair.
Yeah.
So, like, no one in the congregation has ever come and complained to me and been like, get a haircut, hippie. Like, nope, doesn't happen. Sorry. Like, and so, but then they were, and I was, they were like, well, gosh, his hair, though, like, he's so qualified, but I don't know if the congregation is ready for his hair. Even after I told them, yeah, they don't have a problem with long hair. You're not hiring him because he's black, and they hired the white woman. But, so I've seen where it's racist to hire the black person, and I've seen where it's racist not to hire the black person, and they're just looking for any damn excuse that isn't,
Right.
oh, well, it's because he's black. It wasn't because he was black. It's the congregation wasn't ready for his hair. Like, I think all old ladies would have had heart attacks over that hair.
I
I
feel
I
don't
got
know.
like
I got
that brings
told
up
at work on Friday that my hair was cool.
It is cool.
It is
yeah,
cool.
I feel like people do give really weird compliment, but I sometimes I can't tell if they just don't know how to approach like a black person. It's really weird. Like, and I feel like Brittany, I don't know if
They
you
don't.
feel like this, but a lot of
I
times like
don't.
I really prefer for people to just like treat me normal. Like
Yeah.
Hmm.
it
If
really
you think my
feels
hair
like
is cool, tell me my
sometimes
hair is cool.
yeah,
Yeah, say,
but
oh,
With
like
like
hair?
your hair is pretty because, like, this is what it looks like, when it dries versus yours being like a little bit more flat,
Right.
Hmm.
or thin. I don't say it's cool. I'll just say it's pretty. Like it's not a trendy thing that I did for
yeah,
fun. This is what
Right.
it looks like.
But it can be sort of
Hmm.
backhanded if a white girl came
yeah,
up to you and
exactly.
was like, "Man, I wish I could get my hair to be like that." It's kind of
That
like,
happens. Yeah, that
yeah,
happens
it's
too.
kind of like, yeah, okay, all right.
I've had
Yeah.
there's a lady that used to work at the front desk of Facets who used to, as soon as I changed my hair, who liked to touch it. Um,
Yeah, that's
and
something
I
that's
took
See,
my
that's
so
daughter
inappropriate.
up there one time and I was like, I'm actually going to swat her hand or hit her if she touches my daughter's hair. So
Hmm.
there's one thing for it to
Fair.
happen to me, but don't do it to my child.
Hmm.
yeah, and I feel like that brings up a good point because one thing that I have a really I guess possibly polarizing opinion on is the duty of combating racism like systemically
Hmm.
and privately. Like Lynn
Yeah,
was saying, as a white person, I feel like your job to combat racism and white privilege is not necessarily like I hate the feeling or like the kind of rhetoric behind like for example BLM. Like I feel like people like to attach themselves to things as like supporters.
Hmm.
Um but to me there's a difference between like supporting something and like validating the experience of someone. And I feel like a lot of white people have the right intentions, I feel like, but
Hmm.
it's patronizing because it
Yeah.
feels to me like you think that I need some kind of like commemoration of like, hey, you're accepted. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
you're talking about white saviorism and
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
the savior complex that can
Hmm.
arise with allies.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to go to our guest who isn't here at one point, Courtney, who is half black, half white. Um, you know, she's kind of my check. Like whenever I have a thought, I'm like, so let me run this by you,
Yeah.
and let me hear what you think. And it had to do with the protests and or riots that occurred after the death of George Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of this media is circulating on social media and whatnot. I'm seeing all of it, and a lot of times white allies would create the white barricade between the majority black protesters and the SWAT team and the riot police. And so white people would create a barrier. And I was like, how, talking to one black person, how does the black community feel about
Yeah.
this? Like a reporter, and she represents every black person out there. But I just wanted to get a little perspective on it because I was like, to me, I see what KJ was saying. I was like, would that not be like pretentious and patronizing to be like, excuse me,
Like, okay, buddy,
black
relax.
folk, let
All right.
me save
All right.
you from the riot
Yeah.
police.
Yeah.
And then she said, oh, her vantage point on this was her perspective was that most of the time they're happy to have you there because it's better than getting hit in the face with, you know, all sorts of, anti-riot things. And it does
Uh-huh.
work. And so like as long as you're not the worst kind of saviorism is the people that do nothing are probably racist behind closed doors and yet they've got all the BLM bumper stickers and I'm an
Right.
ally. They posture
Yeah.
on social media and whatnot where they're just sort of
Mm.
they're out of the closet woke, but behind closed doors they probably still use the word.
Yeah, it's
I
like they're just
Yeah,
I
kind of
had
exactly.
following a trend.
And even if it's
another
not,
black woman do that to me. Be supportive, in secrecy, but then be, and agreeing with me, but then, being
Mm.
friends and
Mm.
cozying up to said management being racist towards me.
Ah,
Wait, but she
Yeah.
was black?
Yes.
And
that's a
I'm
really
confused.
common thing. No, it's like
Really?
Because
nobody wants to stick
because
their neck out.
no,
I
for
she
see.
not even
she
I
that
wanted
see.
to
they don't
she
want to
wanted
stick
to
their
be
neck
the
out.
token. She wanted to
Exactly.
be the
Hmm.
token and didn't want to cause any commotion.
Look
So
at
it's like
how
if I'm seen as the problem, then she could benefit from that.
Ah, I
not even
see.
just that, like yeah, but it's the competitiveness of like Matt was saying earlier, there are only 4 5 black guys that are gonna get in. Like if you
Hmm.
are one of the qualified black guys and I am black, you are my enemy because only some of us are gonna be able to do this shuck and jive good enough to please these people. And like
Hmm.
doing that, like what Brittany was saying, like putting someone else down to like boost your own like representation, that's like super common. All right. And not even just because you want to prove that you're better. A lot of times it's like jealousy that like
Yeah.
I feel like Brittany, I don't know if black people call you or like say that you act white.
Oh yeah, Oreo
Yeah, I
Hmm.
feel like
or
it's
code
their subtle way
switching.
of saying, yeah, exactly. Like you
Yeah.
were playing the game and
Yeah, and
and
here's the
I'm a
thing.
real and you're just like this and they're trying it's like a tearing you down
They
because
yeah,
you
they did it with
represent something that
Kamala
they can't
Harris.
attest. Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
They totally did it with her. Like, oh, she's code switching and this is and that. And I'm like, let me tell you something. To get where I have got,
Yeah.
um, in my career, I know that when I wear a fro and I work in sales, I'm not gonna sell as much. I know when my hair is straight and I'm a little bit more, appetizing to my clientele, and I
Mm.
look more like them, they're gonna buy from me.
When I was
And
younger,
at the end of the day, that is what it is. If you call it code switching, you can call it that, but it's putting money in my pocket and I'm not hurting anybody to do it.
I mean sometimes it's not
Mm.
even like not about like when I was younger, my mom was like threatened to lose her job because her hair was like we had just started our like natural hair journey
Yeah.
because she was like always having to perm and press her hair because
Hmm.
her job would not keep her around if she looked like a like what a black person looks like. Like
Yeah.
it's like you can't be uh yourself good enough for white people to accept you, so you have to be someone else. And black
Yeah.
people see you as someone that is not appreciating the parts of you that are
Yeah.
black,
Like
when in
you're a
reality,
traitor.
yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
Mm.
like I can't exist in a way that makes me feel like I am who I am in the first place, and
Hmm.
allows me to reach the goals that I want, and allows me to stay in touch and contact with people that perceive me as someone that's supposed to look like them. Like the more that I try to reach further, the more I have to look like you, and the more I look like you, the less the people that look like me trust me.
Oh yeah. I called home one time and my aunt picked up the phone and she goes, Mickey, who's this white girl on the phone?
Oh wow.
That's me, my aunt picking up the
Yeah,
phone.
it's a real
And
common thing.
yeah, so it's very strange. Like
Another aspect of,
you're getting it from both sides.
as a black
Uh-huh.
person, getting to where Brittany is and dealing with that in the background of like being in the environment, trying to portray yourself or trying to exist in an environment that is like not your natural environment, and there's no one else that looks like you. I feel like that is a part of like the main topic, white privilege, is that I'm at work acting how I act at home, at the bar, at but like as a black person, it's like, am I being too comfortable? Because when I act like at home would not be acceptable at
Yeah,
work, and what I act like at work would not be acceptable at home. And you're
right.
always having that like that dispute in your mind, like I don't want to be too comfortable, but at the same time, I am who I am, and I don't never want to. My girlfriend had a guy say to her, she said that she was Mexican to someone, and someone said to her, be careful how loud you say that. And that is genuinely the feeling of like being of the minority. Like, be
Mm.
careful
Yeah,
how loud you are black. Be careful how
yeah,
black you're being.
right.
And that's like the privilege of being white, is I can be myself and I don't feel uncomfortable. I'm not performing in this job interview. I'm just talking to this guy.
Yeah.
As a black
Right.
person, I'm like, I
We
don't
don't
want
have,
to seem too like I am black and I do talk like a black guy, but I'm not like I'm not I'm not what you might assume. And that's a part, like I don't want to assume that you assume something about black people, but how am I to
yeah,
know? Like
Yeah,
how
Yeah.
I
am I
don't have
to
to wear
know
as many masks as you might have to in an interview. Like I'm
right.
exactly?
still putting on certain masks and facades to
Yeah,
get the job that I need.
yeah. You're
Uh,
putting on a
but
professional mask. You're not hiding your
right,
personality,
right,
or
totally.
anything like that. Yeah. You're not having to specifically change your hair or any of these
Yeah,
other things.
exactly.
Like
Like
you
my
just
mom
get to,
literally wouldn't have been able to be in there without,
right,
and that literally damages her body, which is crazy. But like
right.
that's
Right.
what's necessary.
Chemical
And
perms.
like to
Hmm.
her, she's making sacrifices, but to the people around her, why do you look like you trying to play up and kiss up to these white people?
Right.
Right. When like what
Who
Brittany,
do
I
you
think
think
what you
you
were
are?
saying is basically it's politics, it's workplace politics. You know you're not going to make
Hmm.
the sales unless you look the way they want you to look. And
Yeah.
that to you is a battle that isn't worth fighting. Whereas, it's kind of like you're saying choose your battles, but
Yeah. And
other people don't necessarily know how
What
much of a
else you're
battle or how
facing?
much of a cost there is to not fighting every battle. Because like KJ
yeah.
said, it's like you're damaging your hair
Right.
to have a certain look. But if you don't do that, and it's white people don't know. They,
Yeah.
and like they
And
don't
that's
know
the
what
privilege.
exactly that is the
Yeah.
privilege. And so, what's the big deal? So like, but say, being forced to sit at the back of a bus, that would be a battle worth fighting, right? Would
Right.
that battle be worth sticking your neck out? It's not they aren't on the same level, but it's the same war.
Yeah,
They're different
Yeah.
battles, and one you have to say, okay, you know, you 3D chess, let them
yeah.
have this one, but they can't have that one.
I
But
feel
you're
like that's
saying that if you
something
fight every battle, you ultimately
you look
lose.
like. I don't know, Brittany, have you ever heard anyone call you or someone that you know the like angry black woman? Have you ever heard the phrase angry black woman?
Yeah, so here's the thing about that. When I worked at Facets, I had this reputation from two particular white men that I was always upset. What was so funny about that is that they never had any actual genuine conversations with me. So they
Huh.
didn't know who I was at all, but they're
Yeah,
telling people that about me.
yeah.
What
Hmm.
the hell?
Yeah, I feel like that's like a part of the black experience, another aspect of white privilege is, and another battle that with the white privilege you can't see through someone's eyes what they're fighting. But like Matt, I think mentioned it, casual racism earlier. Maybe someone else mentioned it.
Yeah,
I'm
that was
sorry.
me.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's a lot of times that I feel like maybe not a lot, but there are times that I feel like it's necessary as a black person to kind of have a very open mind to what constitutes as like open racism to you, and
Yeah.
Mhm.
everything that kind of hurts your feelings and feels like targeted, and I would have never heard that if I wasn't a black guy. Like, you can't make every one of those moments because you would be arguing with someone every day. And something that I make music and I have a
You
line.
you'd be
uh,
arguing with yourself every day because
exactly.
yeah.
And I have a line that like it's talking about like the bruises from your lips feel like everyone makes you like hurt a little bit more than you want to portray. But at the same time, you can't portray that you feel that way because portraying that hurt makes you more vulnerable to. It's like when someone sees you on the other side of the field get hurt, like in a sport, they're gonna go for you harder. And it's like you have to keep playing up the role of I'm not like I represent and defend black people, but I don't take everything that you say against black people to offend. Like when you start making jokes about single moms, it is hurting my feelings, but I'm still laughing as if it's a joke to keep up the image that I'm not being, and like as a black
Because
person,
you don't
you
want to be
have to
perceived
face
as the
those.
angry black person.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You have to
Yeah.
appease the people, and maybe they're being rude to you. And like I said, it's not really that my feelings are hurt. It's sometimes just literally, I would never have heard that if I was not a black person.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'm in a different phase in my life where a lot of the people close to me know that, when I have the fro out, when I'm more natural, I'm kind of in a mood. So,
Mm.
it is what it is.
Mhm.
Like you might hear some things you don't want to hear come out of my mouth. And I'm perfectly fine with that because I feel like Black people should be allowed to be angry. Everybody has
Mm.
that emotion. So if you want to call me an
Right.
angry Black woman as a result of me telling you something you need to hear, or I'm checking you, you can do it.
And that's the problem. It feels more and more often than like, not maybe not more often than not, but it feels like a lot of times you have to be the one in a room full of people that don't look like you to say that's not really funny to like. Yeah, I get that,
Yeah.
like, and
Yeah.
then you end up in the position of, oh, that guy's not like a team player. He's like that guy isn't the one that we can make jokes or we have to watch ourselves
Oh
around.
yeah, I've been
And
called
now,
a troublemaker. I could think of at least twice in my career.
yeah,
Troublemaker. Yeah.
yeah, and
Just
it's
for
like
stating something that's true, just for calling
exactly,
attention to
Hmm.
something that makes other people uncomfortable.
which again is why
Right.
I say part of the white responsibility that I don't think
Yep,
it's to
I'm
be a
back.
savior. I think it's to
Welcome
say
back.
yourself when like. Yeah,
Yeah.
that like I feel like white people know more than black people. Like that's definitely an insight. Like that's not the kind of thing that you say to anyone in general, let alone a person that looks like this. And I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of times white people, just as much as black people are afraid to look like that person, I feel like white people equally are afraid to look like, oh, you're just trying to stick up for, like, you don't even really like. It's like now you have first the problem of like being a fake supporter, and then you
Like,
have the problem of being a genuine supporter and being assumed to be a fake supporter. Like I
right, like
would say
virtue
something to
signaling.
support.
That's the
Yeah,
term I've been
exactly.
trying to remember for the past hour. That's you're
Yeah.
like a fake supporter. Like you want all the accolades. I standing up for the
Yeah,
downtrodden black man. Like, but you
Yeah, no,
don't do
and
shit. Like you
with
don't
virtue signaling,
know.
you have to have good evidence too, because sort of along the same lines, it's like if you don't have good evidence that somebody is a virtue signaler, that like it's sort of like innocent until proven guilty. Like you have to have some sort of knowledge on the person. Like that person is very like I speak to that person at work, and at work they're very racist, and then on the internet
Mm,
they're sharing all sorts of like woke, positive, uh, racial equality sort of like vibes, and you're like
yeah,
you aren't like that in real
right, because
life.
will they in
Yeah.
real life like it's one thing to post something on Facebook, like a flag or a meme or something. It's another thing to actually be in a situation and fearlessly speak truth to power. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
to me, that is a real ally.
Yeah,
Virtue
that's
signaling
how
is
I
waving
want white
flags.
people to show up. Yeah.
Mm,
Exactly. It's not the black Instagram profile pic. It's like, bro, just like, and another thing that I like, DEI, I would never tell someone, yeah, let me have the job because you're already, there's plenty of white like whatevers. Like I would
hmm
never like, that's not reasonable or right for some guy that maybe did. I think Brittany was saying before, like you feel like, yeah, I had my own struggles and I went through a lot and I made it this far just as much, even though I'm white. And I don't think that it's the place to say like, oh, I'm giving up my spot. That's not reasonable either. I feel like it is to be in the position where I'm making the decisions, and yeah, I'm gonna hire this black guy, not because he's black, but I want to see more black people. Not because I just want to see more black people, but I don't need to see or to feel comfortable. I don't think it's a threat to team, the team to have another person that might throw in some difference in culture into the
hmm
group. Like
Well,
being that person is supporting black people. Being a good white person is supporting black people. But I feel
yeah.
like white people feel like they have to do something extra when in reality it's treat me totally normal. Treat me totally normal. Don't
Right.
Yeah,
expect anything different
there is
from
a
me from
certain
where based
level
off
of
where
like
I'm from.
imposter syndrome when it comes to being an
Yeah.
ally.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
whenever I go to support like an all black business, like there's a great vegan restaurant in Bishop Arts called Vegan Food House, and
Mm.
it's black owned and black operated. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, I'm usually the token white guy in there, and like so there is a bit of imposter syndrome that can happen within the certain like places of businesses or just retailers or predominantly black majority places
Yeah.
of being.
And I
And
do
if I
feel like
enter them, I'm kind of like, what am I doing here? Like, don't mind me. Like, a totally safe guy to be around right
and I
Like
do
I
now.
feel like
swear I'm not virtue signaling, I'm just hungry.
I was genuinely
Like,
interested in the food here.
there's a certain amount of distrust that comes with like being approached by white people as a black person. I
Mm,
told Glenn before, one of my problems is that I don't know whether or not you are racist until I speak to you, and I can't tell what your perception of me is before I speak to you. And I feel
Yeah.
like no offense, but like y'all kind of deserve that shit.
Yeah.
no, it's
um,
true.
Yeah.
like black people being like judged for like being black, like, hey, I won't hurt you, I don't have a gun.
Yeah.
Well, I do have a gun, but it's not with me. I'm not like a threat to you as a black
Right.
guy because my hat is on backwards and I have a do-rag on. Like it's not.
So would you prefer it if racist white folk ran around with their MAGA flags and Confederate flags. It just
I
makes it
would
easy
rather
to
you just
spot.
be, yeah, I mean, to
Yeah.
me, it's like,
Like, I don't want
yeah,
to talk to you.
literally.
Like, I already know
Yeah.
that I'm not going to
Yeah,
want to talk
because
to
I
you.
Yeah.
mean, that's more
Hmm.
respectful than like I'm gonna pretend that I exist in a society that I want. It's the
Mhm.
fake virtue signaling. Like, yeah, I don't
Hmm.
agree with any of this rhetoric that is happening right now, but like in reality, you are totally fine with uh like Brittany was talking about nepotism earlier.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like in a way, if you and we all want to see the people
Yeah, it's
around us
playing the game.
exactly. Like if you are doing so, I feel that like you are more to the that's the system that like this the system and systemic racism, that's the system. It's the not
Yeah.
that you are racist and you wouldn't, it's that you like take advantage of these things with no cognizance, more than you just saw a black guy at the gas station and parked a little bit further away. Like, yeah, you're racist, but you're not
Yeah.
actively creating the issue where it substantiates itself within society. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like the teaching of your child, that like your child in the back seat watching you judge this black guy because, oh, I think he's gonna rob my car, or your child
Mm.
watching you clutch your purse tighter because I don't trust these people around me. Like, that is a part of the system, but more to that is that, like, oh, I know a guy that knows a guy and I'm gonna hire, but instead of like offering up the position openly, it's like
Right.
that builds into the system itself more than. And that also, I was gonna I don't want to leave out the point because I feel like the most contentious perspective I have on white privilege is the aspect in which black people support white privilege more than a lot of white people actually support and like invigorate white privilege in
Interesting.
ways that I feel that, number one, assuming white privilege inherently assumes a black disadvantage
Right.
society, which although it is present, I feel like taking hold to that and holding on to that as something that exists in your life personally, it creates, number one, it creates a worldview where you are a victim and someone and they look like this are trying to inhibit you from making it to somewhere, which at the end of the day, to me, is also just as inhibitive as white people saying that I don't, because it's almost like you don't trust yourself. Like, it's like you feel that you have some sort of inability to make it because the way you look, when in reality, to me, the most profound way that you can attack white privilege is by showing and flexing your black privilege and being something that maybe traditionally doesn't look black, but is black excellence. And a lot of black
Mhm.
people, unfortunately, are stuck in a cycle where, be it because the guidance wasn't there from whatever figure they needed it from, or because
Mm.
society has shown them that success is derived from avenues that don't actually lead to long lasting success. Um, those things, and every time you kind of like submit yourself to those things as a black person, is just as powerful and destructive as parking further away or clutching your purse a little tighter or not caring that this position wasn't even offered to someone that is not literally related to you or in your friend group, close friend group.
Yeah.
So
Those
what you're saying
things.
is that the narrative that we've sort of created for Black empowerment um, can often be like, especially from a young age, might give like a child growing up in the post social media age where everything is everywhere all at once. And it can potentially give somebody growing up and navigating racial inequalities that are baked into our system. It can give them a complex as they try to navigate through everything rather than, so it can almost have the opposite effect. You know, somebody, if you're sitting there trying to bench 350, your personal record, and somebody's like, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, then
Yeah.
when you end up not being able to do it, you create this complex for yourself. And so the same way it can be sort of like hard coaching and whatnot, and like people who community leaders who preach for Black empowerment and Black excellence can
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, when a child maybe falls short of expectations, can maybe generate a complex, or like you were saying, when you're told over and over again that there is white privilege, it can make it feel like there's Black disadvantage.
Yeah.
And
And
especially
it
now
becomes
where you're
kind of
growing up, like
inhibiting that you're
inhibiting like
told that
belief.
you can't, white people will always have the advantage, and maybe that
And
becomes a crutch. Is that kind of what you're saying? Like,
Um, I'm
like,
saying, yeah.
yeah, sorry,
Um,
go ahead.
I'm saying that it becomes not necessarily a crutch because
mhm,
it doesn't support you. It is actually a disadvantage. You can use it as a crutch, but it is crutching your belief. It's confirming your inherent belief that, like, because I don't see any people that look like me on this stage. All the people that look like me are on the stage with a microphone, or on the stage with an Olympic medal, or on the stage with, like, the people that look like me are not usually on the stage where the valedictorian gives his speech. They're not
mhm,
usually the guy that is presenting his new company that's about to IPO. It's not. It's like the subliminal ways that, like, you get
Mhm.
reinforced in your mind that, like, again, the Santa Claus thing, this is not what your life will look like. Like, all the Disney kids, like, they're mostly white, and you see the
mhm,
house that they grow up in on Disney Channel. And for me, there was no, and that's why I say, like, I have a different kind of experience than most Black people, because to me, like, when I was younger, even the house I lived in Memphis was like a house that, like, now I look at it and I'm like, this is like just about ready to be a trap. But when I was younger, it was like a castle, and I couldn't believe how big the rooms were. But, like, it made me never associate myself with some kind of, these people were me. And I still feel like I cling so tightly to this idea of, I'm not better than anyone, but I'm not hindered by anything more than anyone else. I have just as much possibility in my life. And it's because, like, for a long time, I didn't really understand. And even though my cousin, like, her mom is like really struggling, addicted to drugs and whatnot, and my other cousin sells them. And it's like, even though I was exposed to that side of life, it still never felt like me more than the what I saw on the screen. And so to me, because I grew up with that, it gives me a different perspective that, like, I talk to some people, and like the place that they are in life kind of indicates where they believe they should be. And to me, most, if not all, successful Black people that I meet, like, do not associate and adhere to the idea of white privilege, because they recognize that, yes, it exists, but attaching yourself to that only reinforces that it exists and that it is pulling on your life. Whereas if you
Yeah.
assume that, like I said, I have just as much opportunity available to me as the rest of the people that I see around me, regardless of what they look like. Maybe I have more, maybe I have less, but it has nothing to do with what I look like or what they look like. When you like perceive the world that way, you feel and speak differently. And when I talk to people that adhere themselves to the belief that they have some inherent disadvantage, and, like, it's
Yeah.
preventing them from getting to where they want to go to, I see them as losing to whatever white privilege is or is not. But, like, it's not because someone is telling them directly that I'm not going to give you this job. It's them saying that, well, I won't make it anyways, so I'm just going to sell drugs. I'm just going to try to make it to the league, and that didn't work out, so I guess I
Yeah.
belong at Walmart for the rest of my life. When in reality, it's like, just because most of the people that you see work at Walmart, just because most of the people in your neighborhood only choose this route, white privilege is that I'm gonna go this route, and I'm gonna make these decisions that reinforce what I see. And it's like a psychological thing where like you don't mean to do that. It's like the natural instinct to copy what you see. And that's why it's like a cycle, because when you grow up with parents or a brother or cousin that is involved in stuff that you shouldn't be involved in, it says to you that like that's kind of the goal, like to get a big ass car with big ass rims and roll around my neighborhood. That's the end of success as far as I've seen it. Where like if you're a white person, like most of the presidents look like me. Most of the people that I read in my history book look like me. Most of the people that have done amazing things look like me. And those are things that are available to me. As a black person, if you allow the idea that, or the perception that I don't see nobody that look like me, to make you believe that that's because I can't get there, it will make it more and more. You will never get to a position to say, oh, now that I'm able to hire the people that are coming in, I'm gonna hire the black guy and change the reality that I was experiencing. You never get there because you should never be there. And like allowing the privilege of the victor to make you believe that that like reality can't change, that paradigm can't shift, it
Yeah,
reinforces it where now it won't, because you don't, because you didn't go chase after that goal, because you can't support anyone else because you didn't chase after it either. You sold drugs, you like whatever you did, you stayed in this position, your kids stayed in this position. That's white privilege just as much as the white guy yelling obscenities outside of his lifted truck, just
So
as
you're
much as the white guy hiring his brother or his brother-in-law.
so you're saying just the idea of white privilege, it's like not just white people keeping other people down, it's other people maybe not striving to meet their own potential because they don't see there being a point. It's is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And
okay.
like
It
how me and
reminds
Brittany were saying, like
yeah,
you will be dragged down for like, oh, you think you going to school, or you think you about to make it. You know what I mean? And it's like
yeah,
yeah.
that makes people that do
Social
make it look
barriers.
back and say, I'm not helping y'all because y'all didn't even respect me when I was trying to help y'all. And they don't want to be helped because you are an outsider.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's the idea of like people not realizing, like they know white privilege exists. They
Hmm.
know that it's going to be harder for them, and they just I've seen it myself. Like even when I went to the 10th grade, I came from a city where pretty much the junior highs were split between black kids and white kids. And I had a 4.0 GPA, and the counselor took me and sat me down in a classroom before I signed up for my high school classes. And she said, you know, you came from a school where the curriculum isn't strong. You're going to struggle here. Are you sure you want to take honors classes? Are you
Yeah,
sure you want to take these
because
AP
you don't
courses?
belong here.
And so, yeah, exactly. So she did that with like 10 kids from that black junior high. I was the only
Hmm.
kid who was pretty much like, fuck you. I'm not less than,
Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
and
Oh
that's
yeah.
that's how you become successful as a black person, understanding despite the fact that people think that and do that, like understanding you're not less than. And it's the quickest way I can spot somebody that's racist is because they look at me like, how dare you, you know?
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
see.
No,
it's
and
the
Yeah,
and
it's
quickest
like
way.
Preconceived notions
and people
of
Yeah,
who
throughout
you
the
should be, who
the
you
civil
are.
rights movements tried that same approach, and then they're met with a brick wall, which is like pure, unadulterated, racist infrastructure. And then that's
exactly.
the wall that has to be taken down brick by brick. And so
Yeah,
along the
right.
lines of
That
what KJ was saying, you can't be stopped. But then when you come across something that is literally like, you can't come here because you're black, and they just outright say it, like they
yeah,
did back in the 40s, 50s,
now
60s,
you have
and
a court case
before
though.
that, and even today.
Well, in
Today,
today,
yeah.
Nowadays,
Trump
there was a world
administration.
where you couldn't get past that and it was legal. But today, you getting to that place where you can knock on that door and they can slam it in your face, that is our privilege now that was fought, literally died for. There are
Hmm.
like just don't horrible images. I'm sorry, horrible images of like tragic things that happen to people that look like us.
Sit-ins.
To a lot, yeah, getting blasted by water hoses, torn apart by dogs,
Hmm.
to get us to give us the privilege not to say that, well, it's too hard, like it's not illegal anymore. They got the military to walk us into the building. Like we have to, they must let you. And if they don't, it is against the law now. Like if we could
Mhm.
make every 14% of us qualified, it would be a grand civil court case if you didn't put us in the position. And that's what the dismantling of white privilege should look like. It should look like getting every percentage of person to the next step beyond, regardless of what they look like, and believing that you should be there because you're American, not because your skin is a certain color. And I feel
Mhm.
like people lose sight of that, and that makes the split even more apparent because it isn't home of the brave, it's home of the black, white, and like we break ourselves into percentages when it's one big pie. And feeling like or assuming that someone else has some less advantage, or that you yourself have some less advantage, or that someone else it all splits us apart and makes us feel like I
Mhm.
should be doing something or you are doing something against or for me that is disingenuous. And like that assumption, doing it is bad, but the assumption is even more destructive because it creates a rhetoric where now none of us really like have community or support because we're so afraid of each other. And
Yeah.
Mm.
that makes it even harder to fight these battles that are pervading against all of us, because as a white person, you would never want to feel like you are only in your spot because you are white, or that
Absolutely.
someone else
Mhm.
isn't in your spot because they are what they look like. That's not a good feeling, just as much as it's not a good feeling to feel like someone took your spot because you don't look like what they want you to look like at the front desk. Like neither are a good feeling. And I don't think any of us really want to exist in a society that denigrates or supports us based off of what we look like, because that's not what any of this fight has been for this entire time. Black people haven't been fighting to be better. We've been fighting to be equal. And
Right.
that
Mhm.
looks like a different battle than the like social media war that's happening, because it's not that we want to win something above anyone or that we want anyone below to be
Yeah.
moved artificially in a position. We want everyone that looks like whoever and whatever God decided they should look like to have just as much of an opportunity from wherever they are at, based off of whatever they are there from, your own merit.
Mhm.
And so you mentioned like dismantling white privilege. And so like white privilege in and of itself, just from my own musings, is less of like an actual like a pinpointable thing and more of like a grand abstract that sort of encompasses all of the culture differences and the result therein in workplace politics, education politics, and then institutionalized racism, prison industrial complex. And so we take across all of those stats, and like black people are more likely to be incarcerated for less amounts for lesser crimes than white people. They're less
Mhm.
likely to do this or that. All of those stats basically encompass, and then we put the label onto it as that is the white privilege. And so, it would be very presumptuous to sit here and say, how do we dismantle white privilege? And KJ and Brittany have both touched on this already. It's
Mhm.
just like you start with the schools, you start with education, you take away those barriers that might prevent. There's gerrymandering.
Mhm.
Brittany mentioned that her school is mostly black and then this school is mostly white. But wait, we live in a post-segregation society. How does that work? And well, there's
Mhm.
gerrymandering for that,
Yeah.
and that's the way they've worked around and managed to keep us segregated here in Dallas. You've got Highland Park got its own school district because those folk wanted to make sure that they don't mix.
I was
And
just
Yeah.
about to say, if you
And
drive
Right.
around that
Right.
neighborhood during recess, there
yeah,
are
you
literally like no black kids on the playground at
Yep.
all. It's crazy. And
And
that
Yeah.
and
makes
just
white people
the
say
area too. You
there are
I
cross
no
don't know
one
if
white
I've
black
street and
people
ever
that
it's like
can get
white
here.
and black.
I don't
Yeah.
know if I've ever seen a black person in Highland Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's crazy, I was talking with Courtney, is like you meet those black people and they have their own chip on their shoulder because they look at you like I'm not one of you. I'm with my Highland Park friends in
Right.
my nice column fronted house, and we are not the same. And they get their
Yeah.
own little complex that goes on as
Right.
well.
Right.
And like me personally, I grew up in Garland and went to Garland High School, and I was the
Right.
minority as the white boy.
Mhm.
And so it was very interesting when I was to KJ's point too, like when you're younger, you don't really notice all of these things. And yeah, I wasn't really made aware of like racial divide until the fifth grade when my two best friends that I'd known since like first grade, one of them Damarian being black, the other one Daniel Soto being Mexican, and then we get to fifth grade and I'm still ready to play with paper airplanes and have a good time, and Damarian's like, I can't. Like he literally, I tried to go hang out with him. He's like, I'm gonna go play football with my friends, and I can't hang out with you anymore. And I was like, oh
Wow.
man,
Yeah.
what the hell? And I picked up on it pretty quick after that, that I was like, oh, everybody, you go to the lunchroom and the black people sit with black people, the Mexicans sit with other Mexicans, the white people with white people, the Asians with the Asians.
Mm.
And it just sort of happens that way. And then you're the weird one if you try to cross those lines and, be a part of different cliques. And being the one white kid in class was always, I got a few good laughs out of that when something would be mentioned that a white person would do or would know or something, and everybody would just turn and just look at Matt. And but yeah, so I mean, for as far as dismantling it goes, it's not something that can just be whisked away by any one bill in Congress
No,
or
and that's
anything. It
something
all
that
has to start somewhere, and it all
Yeah.
takes a ton of individuals with different goals. Like, you know, me, Matthew Paul, I might dedicate my life to getting kids free lunches in school. That is the one thing I can probably maybe put enough willpower to get done within my lifetime. I'm not going to, uh, be able to do it all. It's going to take a ton of individuals with a ton of goals and ideals to reinforce those goals to one day have an equal society.
Yeah,
um
the problem is that the racism and the white privilege, it's hiding in plain sight.
yeah,
Um, and
Right.
so it takes, I think the only way to get rid of it is for people to call it out when they see it and report it.
Yes. Oh
exactly.
yeah.
And I
Right.
think people are, let's just be
Zero
honest,
tolerance.
they don't have the balls to say anything about it because they fear
Hmm.
for like their own jobs or they fear how other people will view them. But I think until people start doing that to move the needle forward, it's not going to stop.
I
Right.
think,
And
Hmm.
yeah,
there has to be some sort of like safety net for like
yeah,
people that if you speak up in your workplace, you might get canned. And so I'm just not going
Yeah,
to say anything because
yeah,
of sorry, everybody in society, but I have bills to pay.
right.
yeah,
That's
And
what
Hmm.
that's what happens. And since
yeah,
that happens, it makes it pretty hard to, I think it's just going to take people working together and saying,
Yes.
hey, we're all going to report this to corporate so that they know what's going on.
Hmm.
Because guess what? They can't fire the entire building. They can't
Right.
fire everybody. So it's going to take everybody working together to get rid of it.
and to I want to say to Matt's point that it's something I say a lot as well, that you don't often get, like, Brittany can say that and assume that that lady walked her out because she didn't fit the demographic that that lady was looking for, right? But
Right,
she can't prove that in any
Yeah.
determined, and that's what if you look
right.
at like the court cases that are brought, it's so difficult to read someone's mind and say you were being racist, and we know that because it's so difficult to say that. And I
You
feel
know
Right.
like
what
that's what,
though? You know what
yeah,
though? She told somebody in that building. They often always do.
Oh yeah, they'll
Even
go in.
when I worked at
Hmm.
Facets, there were two people that didn't get hired. One because they were a single mother. One because she was overweight and black.
What?
Um, he said this. Two people that worked there,
that's
and
crazy.
nobody reported.
Hmm.
Nobody. We told each other. It got
Yeah.
back around to me, but nobody reported it.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like you kind of like
Hmm.
as a black person experiencing these things, they're real to you and you can see them. But like if you wanted to, it's and that's why to white people it seems like again like something that you never have to experience. And as black
Like it's
people, you
not
can't
happening.
bring it to anyone. It's like a pixie dust kind of like experience because like when the people gain the ability to, this is maybe a bad example, but when people gain the ability to fly in Peter Pan, they don't change at all. Racist people look just like people that just are having a bad day and are snarking at you for no reason.
Hmm.
Racist
Hmm.
people look like a guy that just legitimately didn't have an open space for you and you don't fit the but it's not because of your race, it's because you don't have seem to have as much initiative as like what they're looking for the position. You don't know, you can't say, and like sometimes yeah, like Brittany
Hmm.
said, you get the validation that yeah, that guy's racist, but like what do you even do with that? It's like the system wants that guy to be there in a lot of scenarios because he is keeping things
A
looking the
lot of
way that they
companies,
want it to
though, they
look.
have a zero tolerance policy for it.
And I'm saying
Hmm.
that's why I say it's something that like now we can, it's a court case today. It's a court case that you can argue and fight for, but at the same time it's still something that like when you tell people, like for me when I tell black people about the experience of being black, it's like always oh, yeah. It's like we could literally be related. We have so much
They're
just
so
like
similar.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. But
yeah,
white people, I feel like, and no offense, but like it's always like, oh, like, huh. But like you could say
Right.
something that like to you is like just like the hair thing, Brittany. Like to me, that's like par for the course. Like, oh yeah,
right. Yeah,
you must be new to being black. They do
yeah,
not like our hair. Like,
yeah,
but like to white people, it's like no way you were judged for, or like
yeah,
someone said that
Right,
to
because it
you,
doesn't
and it's
happen
like
to us.
exactly,
yeah.
It's not part of our world, it's not part of our experience. So when we
and
hear
that's what
about it,
makes
it's
it
like, what?
hard
Really?
to say
Yeah,
like
and I think
dismantling
it.
this people's minds. How can you change like the entire conglomeration of white people's minds all at once? You cannot. Like Matt was
Well,
saying,
You,
you
you
can't
cannot
you
because
do
some
that.
of
can't,
them
but
don't
you
want their
can.
minds changed. They don't want to stop being comfortable. You know, it makes
Yeah,
them
Exactly.
uncomfortable, just like how they're trying to take all this stuff out of schools and such because it makes white people feel guilty. You know, like stuff about slavery and the civil rights movement and all of
Or
that
the
crap. They don't want
statues,
you to
not wanting to
teach
get rid of the
anything that,
statues.
yeah, they don't want you to make white children uncomfortable. Well,
Yeah,
some things
erasing
should
white
make us
guilt
uncomfortable.
actively.
yeah,
Like,
and
it's not
from my
saying,
yeah, those kids don't feel uncomfortable. They just kind of think, oh
no,
wow, that's not right.
right.
Um,
Exactly.
Like,
And we
when
Yeah.
I
know
was a
no
little
one
white,
likes that.
yeah, when I was a
my
Yeah,
little
no,
my
white kid,
I
I
daughter,
didn't
didn't
feel
feel a
guilty
burning
sitting in
of,
there.
yeah,
no, but
Sorry.
I didn't feel personally guilty. I felt ashamed of my ancestors. Like,
right,
but I didn't feel because I was well aware that I didn't own slaves. I was well aware that
yeah,
I didn't
Hmm.
do terrible things to black people to keep them from going to the same school. I didn't even care like that what color the people sitting next to me
Hmm.
were, you know?
And that's why I
That
feel
was
like
they
it's
were learning about
hard.
the past. I think,
Yeah.
you know, but knowing about those horrific things in our history means that I grow up to be a white man who isn't going to let history repeat itself if I have anything to do with it. I don't
Right.
want to be those horrible white people I learned about in school. So I think it's
Yeah.
valuable to teach
I want
people,
to be a nice white
about
person.
the sins of their ancestors, you
Absolutely.
know?
And my daughter is racially ambiguous. You cannot tell
Hmm.
um, what race she is. Her dad is white, and I oftentimes, even though me and her literally have the same face, people will ask if she is my daughter.
Hmm.
Or if they assume that she's my daughter, they'll start asking, like, well, what's her dad? Just weird shit that doesn't happen to, you know, white people. And so
Uh-huh.
but it's interesting to see her growing up now because she actually has like two friend groups. And one friend group
Huh.
is with Asian kids, and the other friend group is with the white kids. So she
Hmm.
has on the white kids side, she has Lydia and Ashlyn and Tatum. Those are her best friends. And then on the Asian kids side, she's got Evelyn and Josephine and Claire. And it used to be Charlotte, but Charlotte can't hang out with Olivia anymore because Charlotte's mom saw what I look like.
That's
Whoa.
Yeah,
crazy.
Damn.
yeah. So, but
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I've been out
it's
in public with Courtney, who is half black, half white. Her mom's white.
mhm.
And I've known them for 15 years now. And, sometimes I'm the son and Courtney is the associate. Like
They don't
Michelle
put
is
Oh,
my
the two
mom.
right,
together.
because
Yeah.
Michelle's
Yeah, they're
white.
they're they're like white woman, white young man, and then brown girl, because
Hmm.
she's very racially ambiguous as well. She's gotten
Hmm.
all of them. She's Mexican. People come up to her in Walmart and start speaking Spanish to her, like she can speak Spanish. You can't speak Spanish. Chase's mom was like, what are you Indian? And talking about like Indian, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
nope, my dad's black and my
Hmm.
mom's white. And
Yeah.
then, there's certain things that happen with like Michelle, Courtney's mother. Like, Courtney has to like explain it to her. She's like, you're not gonna understand because you're white.
Hmm.
Like, this is how I feel in this setting. And her mom's all positive. It's like, oh, well, you don't have to worry about that, blah, blah. And Courtney's like, Mom, I'm black. Like, that I
Yeah.
don't feel comfortable in that setting. Like when we
Hmm.
go to see all of her relatives, I'm sure you can imagine country, rural Texan white family,
Hmm.
and then Michelle and her half black daughter. And
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh God.
she does not feel very comfortable out there
No.
for many reasons. Lifted pickups with Confederate flag
Flags.
stickers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable in those those
No.
environments. I mean,
No.
oh.
I have heard that it's pretty hard as a mixed race child to have a white mom
With the
as
midst of
opposed
any
to like
race, I feel.
a black mom. Um,
Mm,
that it ends up different. Like just like watching a lot of like mixed kids give their take on TikTok and YouTube and how like
mm.
the white mom is usually very like passive and not worried about the experiences they're having
Right,
I
right.
see. Yeah.
because they
Because
literally
they
don't
don't.
don't
Oh
get
Yeah.
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Courtney had to navigate being black on her own
Yeah.
because her father decided to, you know, be the stereotype. And
Mm,
and so
Um.
she just had to navigate that all by herself. And so she's going
yeah,
through
that's
school
that
with a white mom and no black role model.
Hmm.
And
to help her understand why things are happening.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I
I
can
had to
Um.
definitely see that.
explain to Livy why Charlotte's mom didn't want Charlotte to hang out with her anymore. Um, and
Oh my gosh, that
yeah,
sucks.
she understood. She was just like, I was like, I can tell you that, this is something that's going to happen even as you get older and you guys, because they're going to junior high this fall. This is probably going to happen more. You're going to see it more. I can tell you that, it's not fair and it's not right. And you can do one of two things. You can linger on it, or you can spend moments like being grateful that you have all
Mm-hmm.
these other friends and grieve the loss of Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just something that she's going to have to deal with. And I was just like, you can write a letter to Charlotte, you can give it to her, or you can burn it. And then we move on. That's what we
Mm-hmm.
do.
Yeah.
And it's on me to teach her how to stay happy mentally in this society, dealing with things like that. Um, because it is something that will definitely like tear you down bit by bit.
Hmm. I feel like that's another aspect of white privilege that like you can't show, and so like you said, you can't dismantle that problem. But I wanted to call back to I can't remember who was saying it now, but someone said something that I wanted to comment on about. Oh, Glenn, you were saying like how when you were learning in school about
Oh,
um
about the
like
sins of
racist,
white
yeah,
ancestors.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
like I guess there will always be people like Charlotte's mom, this is true, that like want this kind of society. But I mean, like I always say the Civil War had two sides and there are only like so many black people. So like there are plenty of white people fighting for and against this reality that like us
Mm-hmm.
for happen to want to see together. There
Mhm.
are people that do not want to see that reality come to be. And
Mhm.
the Trump had a meeting with the president, whatever, of Germany, and there was a
Oh, the
moment that like,
chancellor. I think
yeah,
the
yeah, the
the
chancellor of
chancellor.
Germany. And there's a moment that there was a lot of moments that threw me, but um Trump is always having such ridiculous comments. And at one point he
I
said,
know.
or the chancellor was like, we're almost at the anniversary of D-Day, and and um and Trump was like, "Oh, that was a bad day for you." And the chancellor was like,
Oh my
"Well,
God.
no,
What?
no, because like Germany got, I mean, the Nazi party was dismantled in Germany, so why would I be
Yeah, they
mad?"
got what they deserved.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. And I feel like for white people, and that's the problem with reinforcing white privilege to black kids. Like, yes, your daughter needs to know there will be people like Charlotte and Charlotte's mom. That is real, but everyone is not like that. And
Yeah.
there are
Mm-hmm.
people that feel like, yeah, we like the Confederacy fell, and that's good for us because we get to see a reality where our friends are able to be our friends without prejudice or judgment,
Yeah.
like because
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we
hell
are
yeah.
white and we want
Well,
black people to
And
be.
Charlotte may
There
even
are
grow up to
people like that.
rebel against
That's what I
her
was about
Exactly.
to
racist
right.
say.
mom
It
Yeah.
might be good for
and
Charlotte
reconnect.
Yeah.
Exactly.
because
Because
she'll see
But
like,
it's
she,
also not her daughter's responsibility to help Charlotte see.
right.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's also not her, like, it's not her
right,
duty or responsibility to be like, Charlotte, your mom's a racist and you shouldn't listen to her. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but you
that's a
know,
lot of turmoil that she may not need or be able to handle. It's
right,
just,
but
or may
she
not
Yeah.
have to handle.
she
Yeah. I told her to
probably
just
does
focus
see it.
on like the good friendships that she has. Like
Yeah.
try to stay leaning into the
And I
grateful.
think that's the healthiest way to approach white privilege. It's like you will never be able to get rid of all those people. You will never be able to change the society in an all-encompassing way that makes you feel like it is for you. But the last thing and the worst thing to do is to stop moving forward. Because I feel like in a lot of ways we have stagnated now because it feels like, okay, yeah, black people are pretty equal. And like the statistics say otherwise.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're
They
getting
But
they
the
lazy.
definitely
feeling
do.
is the
They're
Like,
feeling of the signs on the water fountains are gone, the restrictions on the pool are gone, but the sentiment is still there. And as black people, we can do nothing but rebel against it in the ways that are formative and constructive to us without being because like it's like trying to destroy that in white people is dangerous to us, and also it doesn't support us in the ways that we need because we like you could my dad told me this story. I'll make it quick. My dad told me the story of his I don't know what relation he has to my father because my father calls him uncle brother, so I
Oh,
don't
I love
know
this
who
story.
he is.
Oh,
But
okay.
These are
and
the
we're
best ones with
from
Uncle Brothers.
yeah, we're from Memphis, and I think that that's where they were at the time. But um, this is a while ago. This is like when racism was like full fledged. Like they were really getting it in. And every time Uncle Brother would come to this corner store, the guy at the store, white guy, would always say "Welcome you" in word
You
and
can say
or
the word
whatever.
because, but
Oh yeah, he would always hit him with the nigger, and it was crazy for me to hear because I'm like, yeah, that I don't know how you handle that as a person because you want to say you aren't gonna do that, but that and this is not the time. Like I don't know, I'll continue with the story. This is not the time when that's like available, allowed for you to be like arguing against. And one day, Uncle Brother had enough of it, and he sprawls off and beats the hell out of the store guy, the store owner. And but the whole time he was beating his ass, the guy keeps saying, "Somebody get this nigga off of me." And when my dad told me that story, it reinforced in my mind that yeah, there is no fight to be had with this system because they will literally be calling you whatever they want to call you as you are beating the shit out of them for not giving you fair treatment. So, like, as a black person, it's like your best weapon against this thing is, like Brittany said, yeah, we're writing letters and burning them because you can't fix that thing. The best thing you can do is move away and decide that you're gonna be better. But
Yeah.
it's like basically impossible to like approach this thing that is barely even real. And like half the people you talk to will say, I don't even like feel like that. Half of them might not even be telling the truth. And the other half will feel like, yeah, this is right. And I don't want you to be able to live next to me because you're gonna be playing loud music with too much bass in it. Like you will experience both sides, and that will never go away. And as a black
mhm.
person navigating a society that is just the truth
Yeah.
is like the white privilege. And again, I say the white privilege is you would never have to acknowledge, and you don't have to because it is this pixie dust thing that like I don't want to see black people, so I live in a neighborhood where I don't have to see black people, and
Hmm.
I'm allowed to do that, and
Mm.
that is legal. And black people, all we can do is go to college and move into that house and play that loud music, but you
Yeah.
got to get there.
Yeah. Even when I'm always in spaces. I work in an industry where like these vendors will send you to their factories. You do factory tours, but then they like to wine and dine you in these really expensive restaurants or send you to these really nice spas. I have no complaints about it. I love doing it. Oftentimes I am the only black person there.
Mm.
And so what I've found is that like every white woman you see, or even sometimes it's white men, they want to know like what you're doing there.
Mm.
Even if you're there for the same reason that they're there, they want to know who you are, where you came from,
Or
how
how
you
you got
ended up
there.
in this
Yeah.
spot where there are no other black people.
Mhm. Yeah,
It,
no,
it's,
Yeah.
like
it's very
when
weird because that is not a thing that even happens like internationally. I remember doing like a study abroad trip in Italy, and I was talking to this woman from Australia, and she said, "Well, why do white people from America always ask you what you do? That's not a conversation starter. That's not something that we talk to each other about."
mhm.
But it is here, and they want
Yeah.
to know what you do because in their head you don't belong there, and that they're
Mm.
signaling
Yeah,
that to you.
they're trying to rationalize it in their,
Yeah,
subconscious white supremacist minds.
Yeah, or they're
yeah, yeah,
trying to catch you in the act of whatever it is they think you're doing. Like,
yeah,
again, working at a church for 8 years, I saw a lot of, because churches are like one of the last really segregated spaces, I think, in
Mm-hmm.
America, you know? And it's
Mm-hmm.
not
Yeah,
like
I agree one hundred
by a
percent.
rule, it's just kind of how it is. Because
Yeah,
I
when
guess
I go to white
families go to
churches, they
churches
are
and
super lovely. They don't seem to not want you there. Then
oh
you
well,
just
let me tell you a
don't see
story.
black people.
But so like when I was the youth minister at a church for 8 years, um I saw a lot of racism. I saw a lot behind closed doors, like that story about the hair. But like
Yeah.
there was these kids during the church service one day who were coming into the church, and one of them was black. And so, the church lady patrol came out, and like you're talking about, they were like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Like, because
Who are you
they couldn't
with?
possibly be, yeah, who are you with? Who you couldn't possibly need to be coming to church because, he was black. But like, and they were upset. And I don't remember if they came and got me because that kind of thing would happen. But, or if I just, no, they did. They came and got me, to help shoo these people away because they're up to no good, clearly. But I contradicted them completely, got them to come into church and sit down, and they became very core figures in our youth group after that. Like, but the church ladies wanted to chase them away because it's like you're saying, what are you doing here? You don't
Mm-hmm.
belong. And they weren't,
Yeah.
who knows what they were thinking consciously. It's at least subconsciously there's a racist thing going there because
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
they're profiling. They're
Yeah,
like,
Mm-hmm.
I
oh,
feel bad about locking my
black
door in
people,
front of black people
scary.
sometimes.
Yeah, well, like,
Because a
no,
woman
Mm-hmm.
taught me to lock my door every time I get in the car. I was like, that's a good idea. And I'm like, this isn't because of you. I
right.
do
Oh,
this
but that reminds me of something that I thought about when Brittany was talking
because
about
Courtney's like,
her
I don't know
daughter's
how you
friend.
don't lock the door as soon as you get in the car. I was like, I just don't think about it. And that's male privilege right there.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
for real.
So many
But like
layers.
my mom, my sister, and I, when we were kids, like there was this one day we were in the car, my mom was driving. It was totally unlocked, right? We're at a stoplight. But then these black children start walking by the car on the sidewalk, and my mom locks the doors. And my sister and I both were like, "Why did you do that? Are you?" We
It's easy to
started
clock
ribbing her
it.
for being racist, right? Like we caught it as being ridiculous. Because what were those little children going to do?
Yeah.
They're just kids.
They might take your
Little kids
Similac gland.
walking down a sidewalk. But like it made me think about Charlotte was your daughter's friend's name.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like my hope is that her mother forbids her to hang out with her friend because her friend has a black mother, that Charlotte recognizes the ridiculousness of that, and carries that. Because if they were friends, Charlotte
Mm-hmm.
is just as heartbroken as your daughter.
Right.
That's what I would think. And
And
she's
my
going to
daughter
have
said that she,
resentment for your mother. Her
yeah,
mother.
yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter said that she will randomly like come and hang out with them and then like, she'll go away for like a week and then she'll come
Hmm.
back and then she'll go away. So it's like she's
Right.
having this internal struggle about whether or not it's something she should follow along with.
And
Hmm.
man, kids are gonna
Because,
Yeah.
rebel too. So if her
oh
mom
Yeah.
keeps
yeah.
pushing her to like, this is who you can and can't hang out with, well, guess what she's gonna do? She's gonna hang out with the people you say she can't hang out with, because that's
Hmm.
what we
Absolutely.
all did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're a group of friends that have a good time with each other. One of them had a party that was like a paint party. She doesn't even like painting, but Olivia does, my daughter. So that's
Hmm.
what she she wanted to appease her. And so like Charlotte and her mom and her little sister were at this party, and she's just like, well, what's she doing here? She doesn't want to be friends with you. This is what Claire was saying to Libby. It's so much to the point that they thought she came to give her a gift that she didn't like, and so they were digging in the presents to try to figure out what Charlotte brought, like it was a fucking bomb or something.
Huh. Wow.
I was just like, it's fine, don't worry about it. But it was
Hmm.
just like, she's here to sabotage us because she doesn't want to be friends with you anymore. So why would she show up? And I'm like, it's not your party, Livy.
Mm.
Hmm.
Man,
But
kid
yeah,
friendships.
it's very weird, and they know it's weird, and I think Charlotte does to some extent as well.
Oh yeah, surely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
and
it's right around that age where you start to see the world for what it is. Like
mhm.
I mean, that's where my story was with Demarion and Daniel is right around like fifth grade, like 10, 11, 12, when you really start to like, or at least for me, when I started to pick up on like nuance throughout you know, you're stepping into more adult worlds every day as you grow up, and
Mhm.
Hmm.
you know, you start to pick up on like I never knew why I had a friend that I grew up with here in my neighborhood, and I never knew why my parents didn't want me going over to his house.
Hmm.
Come to find out many years later, she was a full-blown crack addict. And like, so, you know, I was just like, I don't know why we're not allowed to hang out at his house.
Uh-huh.
And he couldn't explain it to me either. I was like, I don't know. My mom has a lot of people over all the time, and she tells me to get out. And
Jesus Christ.
Oh
you know,
geez.
so you know,
Yeah,
you,
us.
you pick up on things like that. And then you know, if it was my kid, and I was like, ooh, his friends, his friend is fine, but his mother is a crack addict. And
Yeah,
has crack dealers over there on the regular that she owes money to.
a
Little
good
Matthew,
reason
you
to not
cannot
be
go to
there.
their house. If
Yeah.
y'all want to play, y'all play over here.
Yeah.
Right.
And but his house had the Xbox, so I was pissed.
Um, yeah.
Because I only had PlayStation, and
PlayStation's better.
but I had heard about
You
Yeah.
this
you
game
should know
Halo,
that.
and you
Uh,
know I wanted
but
to
you
Halo.
should
The
know that.
way he was describing Halo to me made it sound like the best game in the world, and
Uh,
you know, largely, you know,
It was
formative
pretty
for me.
good.
I do think it's one of the best games in the world. I
Yeah.
just met the voice actor for Master Chief
That's insane.
at Fan Expo, and got his autograph, and
Nice.
got a picture with him. And for that very friend's birthday party, I got him an autograph with "Happy Birthday," then his name, and
Aw.
from Steve Downs, Master Chief 117. And
Nice.
I felt kind of bad because I kind of blew out everybody else's present. He was like
Ye-
super stoked over my present. And I
This
was
is
like,
kind of
oh,
off topic, kind of on
that's what I
topic,
do.
but I'm just curious, how do y'all feel about like for example the oh, it's because you were talking about I don't know, you were talking about like a convention, I assume, where Master
Yeah,
Chief was.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
It made me think about how like black people are really into anime recently,
cosplay.
and yeah,
I knew
and
what you're going for.
I've
what do
always
y'all
been into
think about?
anime. I should
Yeah,
note.
I
I'm saying like, okay, so I'm surrounded by nerds. Perfect. That's
yeah,
exactly
no,
what I'm
I'm
talking
super.
about.
And dude, if you could see my
Right.
room right now, like
Oh
it's
Yeah,
just
and
yeah.
I feel like
Anime
that's
Central.
that's something that black people really love. I find I have a surprising amount. I feel like black people in particular love anime. Like,
Yeah.
and it be like the jock, like big black guy that's in the gym grinding, and you think that guy's watching sports,
that
and
dude loves
well, no,
Naruto.
that guy
Were you watching
loves
Demon Slayer?
Naruto, literally.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it's
And he was
crazy.
probably the weird
Believe
kid at
it.
lunch that would
Yeah.
run Naruto run to
No,
lunch.
seriously, it's crazy to me. But I feel like people
Cosplay
I've
whoever you
seen on the
want, man.
internet at least. Yeah, okay. I've seen on the internet at least like the people don't like the drawings of black anime characters or like the black
Oh, that.
Ariel
Yeah, that's a
and
whole
Oh,
topic, man.
yeah.
Wait,
yeah,
what
I'm just
Anime
now?
does
wondering
Like
anime does not
about
love us back.
yeah,
That's
no,
Oh
no,
for sure.
like
no.
how
Japan is
black people are
unfortunately
drawn.
pretty well they're just like a
Oh
really
no, I know what you're
positive
talking
society.
about.
Like Mr. Black in Dragon Ball.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
yeah.
Yeah.
Literal
And not
blackface.
no, not
Like,
Dr. Popo.
oh, okay,
Or
there's
not
another.
Mr. Popo.
That's who
Although
I was
lots of people
thinking
have
of.
thoughts over Mr. Popo. Um and I can neither confirm nor deny
No,
because man, it just looks
it's
like
literal
straight blackface.
blackface. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can try to tell me he's an alien all you want, but you made a character that is American colonial blackface stage
Yeah.
makeup guy.
Mm.
But no, there's in Dragon Ball, like the 90s series when Goku's a kid, there's
Hmm.
Mm.
a character named Mr. Black, and it's just like he looked like he was like 6'8", like stacked, and he reminded me a lot of the animated character who I think they remove him from the live action Lilo and Stitch, but the black guy
Oh
in that,
yeah.
the
They
FBI
did,
Oh,
yeah.
agent
they
guy.
did.
They removed him.
Um,
Yeah.
but the Dragon Ball character it was his build, imposing, and
Yeah.
Mm.
then they gave him a very apt name, Mr. Black.
Right.
Lots of imagination went into that one.
Right,
Yeah.
well, because
The
there's
Harry Potter
no
character.
black people. There are no black people in anime. Like, remember
Not no, not really.
Attack on Titan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Attack on Titan.
There was that episode where like there was a black guy who the other
Oh, what was
characters
his
were
name?
amazed by his existence. It was late in the series
Yeah.
because they'd never seen a black person before. I thought it was
And
interesting that they were actually acknowledging that within the continuity of the show, within the universe. They were,
Onyonkopon. That was his name.
oh, right.
And
I'll
his
remember that.
rationalization was that God thought it would be boring if
what's
everybody looked the same.
What's crazy to me is that like even when you get an anime where they introduce like a black character, it is usually
Hmm.
always a male character and they pretend
Hmm.
like the mom or the sisters
Yeah.
don't exist. And I'm like, well, where did this nigga come from? Because he has to have a mom, you know? So
Right.
Zach gets to listen to me complain about it endlessly. And then I'm just like, Japanese girls ain't got ass and titties. And these anime girls got it all. They
Not
got ass,
naturally.
titties, lips. And I'm like, that's black
Uh,
women. But they just whitewashed them.
right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, no, and I
Good
mean, there has
point.
been a
They
lot
don't
of
even
talk
have
about,
dark-skinned Japanese people half the time too.
yeah,
Mm.
no, barely
Mhm.
even that.
True.
They're
And then
all
they're
like the fair
stereotyped too.
skin. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly. Like every character, it's crazy, and there are pretty brown. It's kind of like I feel like
Yeah.
Japanese people are similar to Mexican people. Like some of them just are brown or than other,
Hmm.
but like I guess, what do they call it? The conventionally attractive, like I guess, is like damn near Korean, pale,
Mm.
Yeah,
like
that's
high
what they
eyes and soft
idolize
skin. Yeah,
paleness. Yeah.
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 And
It's like a
I
really
mean, that
colorist
is
society
historical. Like
and
that's why
Yeah.
racist society at the
they
same
paint
time,
their
and
The
faces,
geisha.
homogenous. So it's like all
the
three just
geishas.
stat.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, no, I mean, oh man, I had a thought slipped away because of geishas.
It happens.
Yeah, no, cosplay whoever you want. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, I just wanted
but
to
I do
ask.
know people that are black that like they're like I can't. I don't want to ruin the character. I'm just like, man, that's so unfortunate.
Yeah.
Like, uh, or rather, it's not that they don't want to ruin the character. They don't want to be perceived as ruining the
I was
character.
gonna
That's
say, I
more of what
feel
it
like
is.
people criticize as if like, because I don't necessarily, yeah, it's like the outfit should be, if it's a good character design, they should look like whatever they look like because that's what
Hmm.
they look like on the screen, not because they are a black guy. Because like Ariel to me, like, and I mean it's a kind of an easy one to criticize, but like for example, the Little Mermaid, that bitch is a mermaid. Like there's
You're
no
Yeah,
right.
it's
like
Yeah,
not
she can be
real.
any.
reason
It's
to,
not
And
yeah,
real.
they acted a
like
fool.
Right.
yeah,
They
like his
literally
was
gave her
being
the job because
misrepresented.
she sang like Ariel.
Yeah, the
Hmm.
best thing I could hear is that the water should not have that enough light accessing it to make a person brown skin. But like we're getting really deep into people breathing
Right.
underwater,
Yeah, then you're
scientifically being accurate. So
overthinking
yeah,
it. Yeah, it's a
yeah. And it sucks that
fantasy.
it's like we can't make, I feel um like it's not necessarily like a grand aspect of white privilege, but I feel like again it's kind of the thing of being something that people don't want to see. And so
Yeah.
Michael Jackson is wrong to, if he did or did not want to look more white, he's wrong for that, even though he would be, and more light-skinned beautiful women are famous regardless of if they're talented or not in the
Yeah.
music scene.
Right.
And you wonder why people want to be more pale with more straight hair with a skinnier noses,
Yeah.
like what do they see as as being promoted as what success look or what success should look like? And
Mm.
like
I
it's
would,
just like another example with the anime, like you aren't supposed to be a dark skinned person because that's not what you are meant to look like,
Oh yeah, I
uh,
remember what I was gonna
or
say.
this
Just
is
thank
supposed
you,
to look like.
KJ.
Yeah.
Freaking people have talked about Goku for years. He literally goes from like his powered up state is an Aryan nightmare.
Oh, truth.
Like he literally goes from being like an Asian, black hair, slanted
Uh-huh.
eyes, somewhat fair skin, to being like blonde hair, blue eyes, and
Right.
now he's super powerful. It's like Super Saiyan is white privilege. Like it
Right. It's
gave him
like
power.
it's white privilege.
yeah. And I
And
think
then,
the black
there's all the stuff
community,
about monkeys and there's
yeah,
there's all of that in there. And I'm like, Toriyama,
yeah,
what are you trying to say here?
yeah, yeah.
Well, he's
Um,
dead now. It's
Yeah,
yeah,
he's dead now. It's fine.
I think
Jeez.
we've all started to claim anybody that's not white appearing in the anime as black people. Even
Oh,
if they're like
Piccolo.
purple or
Yeah,
I was
blue
about
or
to say
yellow.
Piccolo.
Piccolo's
Piccolo's a big
black.
one.
No, no,
Everybody pretty
Piccolo's
much
literally
has
a
the
He's
black
consensus
black.
guy.
that
Yeah.
There is no way
Piccolo's black.
Piccolo is not supposed to be a black guy. That is the blackest like green guy I have ever heard. The
Right?
way he speaks and the way his voice
Yeah.
sounds, that is a black guy.
His demeanor.
Yeah, literally,
Oh man.
that's a black guy. Like that, at least for me as
And
a
what's
kid,
crazy is that
before
we
I even
all
like
had the same
understood
idea. Like
Yeah.
that
everybody
was
I
my
know,
kid.
like I've just always regarded Piccolo as
Yeah.
being a black guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, even though he's green. Like
even though
Yeah.
he's green,
He kind of started that.
he started it for me, that's for sure. I'm sure if I thought hard enough, I could think of other examples like what you were saying.
Yeah. Like
Like
in
Majin
Naruto,
Buu, definitely
with
not a black
Killer
guy.
Oh
B.
no.
Killer B and his family and that whole, yeah, they're black.
Yeah.
And to me, they're black.
Oh,
Really
R2D2, black guy.
Oh, definitely.
what in the
No.
world?
I don't know. There's just
I
yeah, he's,
like
he's
that.
got
Yeah.
he's got a certain pizzazz.
Yeah. So
And
R2D2.
maybe I'm
we, you
influenced
know,
by the Family Guy Star Wars episode where
Right.
Cleveland was R2D2.
Yeah, I know for that's what I was thinking of when you said
It just
it.
fits so well.
It did.
Cleveland
But
made an excellent R2D2.
back to like
Back to the boring
cosplaying
topic of white privilege. No more
cosplaying
laughter.
outside of your race. No more frivolity and merriment. This is a
I
serious podcast.
I put on
But
makeup for whatever I want to. I went to
uh
Universal and I had on my Ahsoka makeup. And
ooh,
it was
sweet.
the coolest thing ever because like I saw little kids looking like, oh look. And so it was just really cool. They didn't care that I
Uh-huh.
wasn't their exact skin tone,
Right.
so
Right. Well, yeah, little kids. Like, when I was a kid, my cousin, his favorite Star Wars character was Lando Calrissian because of the cape. Pretty much.
mm,
He liked the
Capes are
cape and he
cool.
thought Lando was cool just in
yeah,
general. So anytime we were a little kid
Lando
playing
had
Star
swag.
Wars, he was always Lando. He didn't put on blackface. Like we weren't even thinking about that. Like he was
yeah,
just, I get to wear a cape because I'm Lando.
God, there was
right.
that
Like,
story 10, 15 years ago about that like 7-year-old that was gonna
oh,
like dress up to be MLK for like a project. Like they were
yeah.
presenting like prominent figures in history, and this little white boy in like South Carolina
Oh
wanted to
god.
be MLK, and
Oh,
his parents, probably a little undereducated, saw no issue with him just like painting his whole face black. And they're like, he's portraying the character. And I was like, man, that poor kid, that's gonna come out like, he can't show himself. If anybody made the connection today to his,
yeah,
adult 35-year-old self,
Uh-huh.
they're like,
right.
hey, aren't you blackface kid? He'd be like, Dude, stop. I
Yeah,
didn't know.
he was
Yeah.
literally a kid.
You
Yeah.
kind of need your parents to step in there and be like, no.
We're not gonna do that. Yeah.
You can't,
As you
you
know,
know, you can read about them,
but
but you're not gonna.
what are y'all's thoughts though on like let's talk idealistically. like we know how society is. We know, race
Shit.
as we are discussing it is a social construct. We also know that we live in the society that constructed it. And so we have to deal with all the bullshit. But if that weren't the case, like if skin tone did not define a race socially and legally, as far as census is concerned, all that. Like if it weren't
Hmm.
any different, which biologically it's not any different than your eye color, your hair color. If we didn't have that, then would there be a problem? Like if you wanted to be MLK and you're a white kid, you want to dress up as a historical hero, and you do put on dark makeup to look more like him, would that still be offensive, or would it be no different than putting in colored contacts or dyeing your hair?
I think part of it is because of history. Like
Mm.
Yeah,
you'd have to erase all of history because it
Right.
has
Well, yeah,
historical
true.
significance.
Hmm.
yeah,
Um, it's the
But
same thing
let's
with like the
say,
swastika
okay.
being like a symbol of peace and whatnot in Asian cultures, and then it was
Mhm.
hijacked and perverted by the Nazi
Right,
Party.
right. It wasn't a symbol of hate long
Right.
I,
ago.
And
That's
then
all we see now when we look at it. And yeah,
yeah.
historical significance.
because I idealistically, you know, from a white
Right.
person, no. But that's
But
my
you're right, like
piece.
history would have to be different, is what you're like. If we
Yeah.
get to a
Yeah.
point 300 years from now where everything actually is equal, like if we don't even consider skin tone a different race anymore in the future, it would still, because of history, what I'm hearing you say is that it would still be offensive just
Yeah.
because of history, even if that kind of racism no longer exists.
Yeah, but I feel like even
Mhm.
if it was still offensive, I feel like, then we will have moved forward to where like people would know not to do it. You
Mm.
know, I
Mm.
just feel like
Okay.
they would know. I also feel like the thing that white supremacists don't want to happen will happen, whereas a lot more of us will appear racially ambiguous.
Right,
And
right.
they're trying to stop that because they're like, no, white people still have to be the majority. And
Yeah.
that's why, abortions shouldn't happen. Like they're trying to, keep white women having more and more babies,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, despite the fact that it's a risk for women of color because even the hospitals can't get racism right.
Mm-hmm.
No.
So
Well, so okay,
Um,
so when it's, we're all again hundreds of years from now, that's the projection is that we'll all be racially ambiguous. We'll all more, I'm sure there will be little groups
yeah,
Yeah,
of
little Aryan
people. Yeah,
conclaves.
but for the most part, people will pretty much have the same skin tone. So what do you think the next thing is going to be that the elites use to otherize people when they
I
can't
already
use
know.
race?
we finally get to
Say
talk
what?
about the thing that's the issue in this society, and that's the wealth gap.
Yeah, it's
We
Mm-hmm.
already done.
finally fucking get to it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the thing that, one of my potentially controversial opinions is that like white privilege exists under class privilege.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
because it's the class privilege that has created the white privilege. And
Right.
to KJ's point as well, it's a numbers game too. More class privileged people are white, and so that creates a
Mm-hmm.
parallel privilege. So where
Right.
being white is associated with the higher class. And but yeah, that wealth gap, boy, that's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, that's the root of
that's
all
the
the
demon
issues.
king.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
And that's
that's
a
the
part of
final
the
boss.
issue that I say is why it's within the picking process because like if 90% of the orange trees are dead or dying, that is a that is the issue more than we just can't seem to find enough oranges to put on the shelf. It's like
Mhm.
the wealth gap prevents healthcare, uh, proper healthcare, which prevents like healthy, fully mentally and physically capable Black children from existing. I'm sure Brittany has experienced struggles being a Black woman producing a child. I don't know if that's the proper way to say that. Um,
Oh,
but
You
yeah,
do produce a
yeah,
child.
I can tell you it was a fucking nightmare.
yeah, I would imagine. And that aspect, as well as colleges basically
Housing.
impossible to pay for, housing, um like unless you are having already existed in, like I said, the class of the victors. And it does include a lot of poor people of all colors, shapes, and sizes, as well as Black people. But I feel like, and this is the part where I feel like the Black Lives versus All Lives Matter part comes in, because
Mhm.
yes, all lives matter and everyone should have the opportunity that everyone else has. But again, it's like there are 13% of Black people that exist, but there's like 4% Black, maybe not even that many millionaires, like 2% Black college graduates. It's like within our own enclave, the percentages are so dismal. Like you can obviously perceive that there is an issue, but like when you go to try to address the issue, number one, like half the people don't want to address it because it's like, well, we didn't do anything to you. But the other half of the issue is that the problem is that you wouldn't and couldn't pay to like rearrange all of these things. When I think I told Glenn one time that to me it's a lot like having a cup full of salt and trying to a cup full of salt and pepper, and trying to scrape all the pepper out little by little. Like eventually you would be able to get there, but the problem is it would take like forever, and the closer you get, the harder it is to get each individual pepper. And the problem with America is, for that to happen, you would have to stop pouring pepper in the first place. But we have,
Mhm.
and the pepper is the racism. The pepper is the part that is like, we're trying to make these things more equitable for
Yeah, no, we
everyone.
got the bulk of it out of there,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
now we're like picking through, and we got to get the rest of it out because I still don't want pepper in my salt.
Exactly. And that
It's
looks
a
like
really good
what I
analogy.
see as, like, if you are Black, you will likely go to a poor school. You will likely be far too far from a grocery store. You will probably not make enough to meet the
And real close
threshold
to an
of,
alcohol store or
you're
liquor
real
Yeah.
store.
close to
Mm.
a check cash in place and a,
Hmm.
place to get payday loans. Um and you are probably not gonna have a good quality grocery store very close to you. And I
Right.
like, again, we see, like, I exist in like, I don't know, I see both sides. Like I live in the hood, but I go to the
Hmm.
wealthy neighborhoods all the time. And it's crazy because aside from seeing only white kids on the playground at those private schools at recess, I also see like only white people in a lot of other places, such as Whole Foods. Like I just don't see Black people at Whole Foods. Not
Not
to say
shopping
that,
there.
but like,
Huh.
where is the Whole
True.
They do
Foods?
be working.
You can't go to a Whole Foods because the bus doesn't go past the Whole Foods, and your neighborhood is not going to be near a Whole Foods. And
Mm.
like that is the same thing with access to education, with access to these things. Like there are no Black kids at the private school because they can't afford to go to the private school. There are no Black people at Whole Foods because they can't afford to go to Whole Foods. And now you see less long living. Like I was just telling my girl, the top 1% of people live 15 years longer than the bottom 1%. Black people literally just don't make it to be represented in certain places
Hmm.
because we don't live that long, if not just because we will never be shopping at a Whole Foods because we cannot afford, we will never be going to this school or that school off a scholarship or without a scholarship because there's just no way. We won't be at that private school because there's just no way. And that is like, it reinforces the like Matt was saying, the fact that you only see white people on the podium, it's because black people can't afford to get into the race.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
you see it every
We
year.
don't.
Social media is an incredibly toxic place.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
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 thanks.
especially
um,
Twitter.
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you see it every year with the different months. You have Black History Month, and you have the people that are like, "Where's White History Month?"
Right,
And then you get to Pride Month, and it's like, "Where's Veterans Month?" And there is a Veterans Month,
right.
and they don't even
Is
know that
there?
there's a Veterans Month.
I don't even know that. Oh,
Mhm.
Yeah, because we
as a
don't
veteran,
celebrate
I
it.
don't even know that.
Yeah, and
Well, now you
but
do. We still don't know what month it is, but
yeah, I don't
Okay.
know what month it is. But I want to say November, but I think that's just where Veterans Day is, and that's
oh,
why I want to say
well,
that. So I don't know if that's correct or
could
not.
be.
But no, somebody posted this awesome analogy the other day talking about Pride Month, but it could also be equated to the same people that bitch about where's White Pride Month or White History Month. And
Mm.
they said asking for White History Month is like asking where the non-handicapped spaces are in a parking lot
Right.
Yeah,
That's an
That's an
excellent
amazing analogy.
analogy.
that's really good. Yeah.
because look around. Like
Right, right.
Yeah.
they're all
The
there.
rest of them.
So
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
every
have
It's
these
month is
ones for
White
the people
History
that
Month.
need them,
yeah.
and you get everything else.
Yeah, it's literally like every other day in class. like
Yeah.
like we
Yeah.
go through the black unit, and now that slavery and Reconstruction is over, now we can get back to the Gilded Age and all the cool white people inventions and whatnot.
And all the snubbed black inventors.
Yeah,
Oh
Yeah.
my
yeah. Now
gosh.
we can
Yeah.
get back into
Yeah.
the
Yeah, the
main.
guy that invented the water car was the black guy, and he's widely to have been known to have just been killed by the
Mm.
automotive industry. Like people just kind of accept that a guy made a water engine, and yeah, you don't know his name, and we have no water-powered cars, and that's because the white elite would not allow that,
That's
let
Right,
alone
because their
let a
money's
black
in
person
oil. They don't,
invent it.
for
Right.
yeah.
gas, they don't want.
That's part of what I was saying about the lady at my job's music being like a white representation of black people. I feel like for example, the music industry, like black people are excellent and we have the accolades and the representation within the things. We just don't benefit from like most of that representation because like
Yeah.
hip hop
That's
music is black people music and black people profit the least from hip hop music.
Mhm.
Like even though rappers look like whatever, that to me I see that as destructive to the black community because again it like reinforces that this is what you're supposed to look like to be a successful or this is what successful black people look like and this is what they do. And
yeah.
most if not all rappers do not do anything that you would want your child to replicate. But like that is kind of the rhetoric that you perceive societally as a black person. And I feel like that again, like that is the white privilege to be able to like take again, like it's like the same thing that happened with Africa or Africans. It's like you take the thing, you market it, you bring it to market and you profit off of it. And the like husk of the corn, you trash that. You profit off of the black people and then you kind of relegate them to this aspect and part of your society that
Mhm.
you don't need it no more. But you still siphon. That's why I say again, black people are used as batteries because you siphon the talent, you siphon the culture, you siphon our way of speaking, the vernacular, you siphon all the cool parts, the fashion, the style, like the food. You siphon the things and you brand it as this new soul food restaurant that like is owned and operated by a white guy and now it's a franchise and that is benefiting a white guy at the like opportunity of black people, but no black people will be like profiting from this thing on a generational level. Like I forgot who was talking just now, but you were saying that like you end up in a position where you are like can be elevated more by your status. But like black people never even get the chance to own the things that we are like have created, or I forget who it is, but my mom is always telling me it's like a famous music group, and I mean you can find examples everywhere in any industry, music
Hmm.
or entertainment, of like
That's what
just or inventors, that's what you were saying, of black people that got snubbed and their company, their invention is owned by a white company or a white person, their music is owned by a white person, but that money belongs to a black family or a black, and those people live, if not regular lives, they do not live the millionaire investor lifestyles of the people that own their name. Sometimes
Hmm.
their
yeah.
literal likeness.
Have y'all seen Sinners?
I
I
haven't
did.
yet. That's the next movie I want to see just because I've heard it's very original.
Yeah, that's an aspect of the movie. There's a line in the movie that says, um, well, there's a scene where they show that, um, rock and roll and hip hop and everything comes from blues.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a line in the movie where he says that, because they have to like sneak away to have their own like juke joint and play their blues music. He
Hmm.
goes, white people love blues music just fine. They don't like what the people look like that sing it. That's what they don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's been going on since, the beginning of what Black people perceived as being like free before Jim Crow.
Hmm.
But I
It's
mean,
been going on
during
since then where they're taking their music, sometimes even singing it word for word, but just giving it to a group that's white
mhm,
as opposed to the
Hmm.
Black people
exactly.
that were singing it.
Or even
Right.
during slavery, like white black women are the house rearers. Like while the white people are out riding horses and going to
Yes.
market or whatever, there are black people raising children, cooking food. Like
Yeah.
the abominations are the ones that they are taking all of their skills and talents. They
Hmm.
are using us for our benefit and then denigrating us as something undesirable, when in reality they want all the things we have. They want that, like
Right.
white people want to
Right.
have dreads now and they want to have all of the
Yeah.
things, but they want to have BBLs, but
Yeah.
it's like when
With
I eat a lot of
skinny
food, it
legs
goes to
and
my
all.
stomach instead of my thighs and ass. But like I still want to like have this representation of what black women are gorgeous and look like. Like I'm pretty sure European men passed out the first time they saw thick white women on the motherland, thick black women on the motherland, because like
Oh,
white
they
women just
did
aren't
more
built
than
like
pass
that.
out.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
did,
They
exactly.
stole one.
unfortunately.
Yeah, they stole one and put her up on display for people to look at and gawk at daily.
Wow.
Yeah,
And put her in
and
a
That
that
happened to
still
museum.
Pocahontas
happens.
too.
Like
Yeah,
Sexy Red is that woman in 2025.
Mm.
Shake your ass on this stage to convince everybody else that that's what you're supposed to look like, and that like that is some kind of pinnacle of achievement,
yeah,
and that it's like acceptable, when like most black people I feel like don't actually, like I tell Glenn, like most black, like I don't know that many real gangsters, because like if they are gangsters they are either in jail or they just never talk about what they've done. Like if not all people that I know that are black are like pretty regular, like they are just like so normal,
Just trying to
but
make
they,
it.
Hmm.
yeah, exactly, but they exist in a society that like
yeah,
relegates them to a place.
yeah.
Hmm.
Y'all should look up Sarah Bartman if you
Sarah
don't
Sarah who?
know.
Bareman.
Bartman.
Hmm. Who's
Um,
Sarah Bartman? Do
she was
tell.
the black woman that they took to Europe and displayed naked
Oh,
so people could see her
okay.
body.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Okay. I'd never
yeah.
even
Can't believe
heard
you knew
that
her name
story.
off top. That's crazy. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I've
no,
heard of her, but I
Oh.
didn't even know that that was
yeah.
her
They
name.
they they actually
Mm-mm.
did that.
that's
Wow.
crazy.
Yep.
And I mean they did that to the Native Americans too. They brought over Native
Hmm.
American wives whenever they showed up. This is my perfect little Indian is what they called them, wives,
Hmm.
and they're trainable. They're obedient, and I
Oh
may
my
not look it, but
goodness.
those were my
Yeah,
ancestors.
right. Yeah, it's weird. People are weird, man. Which,
Yeah.
okay, it's getting kind of late. So we should probably wrap up. Do we have closing thoughts? Or do y'all,
Um,
because I don't want to
at,
cut anything off if there's something you still want to say. Or just,
uh,
final thoughts.
yeah, I think we pretty much define white privilege as like white people not really having to adapt much, if any at all, to
Hmm.
live everyday life. And you've got brown people basically jumping through hoops to try to make it.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'd say in a song, I think I mentioned it. The privilege of not standing means you sit when we talk. And like to that, I mean that if you have no constructive things to bring to the conversation and you are not going to stand with someone, you are only standing against what is being spoken of. Like all lives matter is against the idea that like people are trying to like have this fight. And that's what white privilege allows that. But with that privilege, I feel that you should either be a microphone or amplification, or put your hands in your lap and sit still
Yeah, no,
and
I'll
listen and
work the
understand
soundboard
and
for you.
receive. Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
about you,
no,
Matt?
my
Closing thoughts?
no, I mean we didn't get to him, but I have, a select few instances of like blatant times in my life where
Hmm.
I'm like pretty sure I just got off scot-free because I'm white. Like,
Hmm.
I've
Yeah.
been in some sketchy situations where police involvement happened, and like after it's all said and done, and I'm off with a slap on the wrist and maybe a ticket, and I'm just
Hmm.
like
Mm.
that could have gone very differently had I not been this close to the color of a marshmallow. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, no, and
Your new name is
so
Marshmallow Matt, just so you're aware.
thank you, thank you. That's what they called me back in basic. No, I'm just kidding. Um, no, I've talked with Courtney at length. My token black person. I don't have a lot of friends, and then but like I was like, so what am I supposed to do with white privilege? That was my question for her. And like I've got it. I can't just get rid of it. Like I can't just cast my white privilege aside. It's there and it's a part of me, and it's a part of how I exist within society. I'm a white guy, and I mean she pretty much said what KJ was just saying, is just, be ready to stand up. You
Right.
know,
Hmm.
Yeah.
be ready to stand up. Don't talk over. Don't make it about you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um,
Treat me
listen
like an
more than you talk.
American. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because my rights don't deserve to be fought for because I'm a black guy. American rights should be fought for by every person that is American. I am allowed to exist here by and because I am here.
Yeah, and then beyond that,
Hell
human
yes.
too. Human rights are
Yeah,
obviously
exactly.
like, because the biggest salt or the biggest pepper that we had to get off first was, let's just stop enslaving and killing black people. Like that was the
Hmm.
like step
Might help.
one, how
Yeah.
to be create a decent human society. Um but yeah, I mean, so that's my final thought is just like, as a person with privilege, being aware of the privilege is important for how to properly wield it for the benefit of all and for the dismantling of the privilege itself.
Hmm.
Like the first step in dismantling, what is the phrase? The first step in solving a problem is knowing there is a problem.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And in this
admitting the
case, the
problem.
problem
Yeah.
is privilege. I'd
Hmm.
never be able to dismantle it if I weren't able to recognize I've got it.
Mhm.
Right.
And then, you know,
Right.
not necessarily seeking appropriate uses for it. I'm not going to go around as like a white knight, um, and just trying to bail everybody out. But yeah, I mean, that's my final thought.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. And I always say, just the biggest thing that I want y'all to do is just snitch on these motherfuckers.
Oh
Like
yeah.
when
Yeah.
you see something, like at your company, there's a way to report things anonymously. Just snitch on
Hmm.
them because
Mhm.
they're exposing themselves.
Yeah.
That's what's hurting us. It's not hurting me that somebody calls me the N word. It
No,
hurts me if
exactly.
somebody affects like the amount of money I can make or the thing
Exactly.
that I
Oh,
can
I'm
do
glad you
to
said that.
change or increase my lifestyle.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Both are destructive and damaging, but the systemic part is
That's
the
the issue.
thing that is more
Right.
insidious.
Yes.
All right. Well, good closing thoughts. Good conversation. And I mean, I guess my closing thoughts are just that, we didn't solve the problem of white privilege tonight, but we did discuss it, and we
Yeah.
discussed it outside of our cultural bubbles.
Yeah.
And that,
Yeah.
I think, that's an important step in eventually leveling the playing field, eventually getting rid of white privilege. Though it will
Hmm.
take a very long time, but talking about it openly and honestly, and like you're saying, Brittany, like is snitching on people, also
Yeah.
just standing up and to their faces, speaking truth to power.
Right.
Like if you have some moron who's like, woke is over, there's no more woke, you'd be like,
Yeah.
well, I am still awake, as it turns out, motherfucker. So, I think it's
Yeah.
important to talk and to talk openly and bravely about things
especially
in
on
the
the
face of bigots,
Autodidactica podcast.
Yeah.
especially on the
When
Autodidactica
when when
podcast.
this when this becomes famous, we're gonna pretend like this was all us. Uh,
Right, right. All right. So, anybody got anything to plug? Anyone want to sell themselves? I mean, because I am also an author. If you want to check out my writing, my novels and short stories, you can go to my author website, glennslade.clarkjr.com. I've also, this month being Pride Month, I've got my notes somewhere. We're doing a free promotion on Amazon. A lot of my fiction that features either LGBTQ protagonists or LGBTQ characters in significant roles in the story are going to be free on a rotation. So, let me put on my actual eyes. So, on
nerd.
it's June 19th when this episode drops. So, June
Okay.
19th through 20th, my short story collection, The Great Debate, will be free as a PDF on my author website because there were weird rights reasons it couldn't be free on Amazon. June 21st through 25th, though, go to Amazon, get your Kindle ready. Metronome's Death Match is a short story that's going to be free, as will be the novel Metronome's The Shaman's Apprentice. And June 26th through 30th, The Rainbow Colored Sheep will be free. And that's a short story, another short story called The Escapist. Um, so so there you go. That's all my plug-in.
Okay.
And
Cool.
yeah, anybody else? KJ
Yeah.
has a YouTube channel.
Thank you.
KJ is a musician, Justice. So plug
It's
yourself.
gonna
Tell
be
us
hard.
about your
Yeah, I make music sometimes, usually not, but every now and then things appear on my YouTube channel. I think it is just called Justice. It's pretty hard to find, but if you look up Justice and then cynical, just the word, you'll find it. And
and we'll drop a link on the YouTube edition of this down in the description.
okay,
So you
bad.
can you can find KJ's music. It's pretty darn good.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
I
Um,
play baseball. That's all I
he
do
does play
nowadays.
baseball if you want to go see him
Um,
play baseball.
yeah, no,
Okay.
you can follow us on oh, I'm part of a Sandlot revival across the country. I am participating in, and we are the White Rock Mud Bugs. We have an
Oh,
Instagram page
I
that
like
is
it.
mud bugs.
uh yeah, so we got a little fighting crawdad as our mascot, wearing a sailor costume.
I
Um,
almost thought you were gonna say mud crabs, and I was about to be like, yes.
no, but yeah, if you want to come check me out playing baseball, you can do that. It's a good time. People just show up, bring lawn chairs and beers, and just
Where is it
watch a
at?
bunch of. Uh, so we play at different fields. Tomorrow I'm playing at Norbuck off of
Mhm.
Northwest Highway and Mockingbird. And
Hmm.
but we also play it's part of Oak Cliff Sandlot is the main disambiguation page. That's the league that I'm a part of. There's like 6 teams, and if you ever want to play baseball, they have Saturday pickup games. They had one today, from like 11 to 4. You can just show up and play real baseball. No umpires, no
Okay.
buy-in, just show up with a glove, and
Nice.
yeah, no, it's a good time. It's a lot of there's a lot of
Hmm.
community there, and that's pretty much all I'm doing,
Okay.
external. But yeah, good podcast.
Good
Yeah,
podcast.
nice seeing you all.
Yeah, thank
Cool.
you
Thank you for having
both
me on. I'm sorry for
so
being a
much.
little late.
You're
Yeah,
welcome. Not a
thank you both
problem.
so much for being here. It was a really good episode, really good conversation. And
Yeah.
next month our
Appreciate
topic is going to be idols and demons.
That's one of
Um,
mine.
yeah, that's one of yours.
And we're
That's
going to be
interesting.
discussing if I always come up with these snazzy titles that are like metaphors for what I'm thinking
What
of,
you're really
and then I
talking
write them
about?
down, and then I forget what the metaphor was. So I'm pretty sure idols and demons we're going to be discussing celebrities and the either idolization of them or demonization of them and the impact that that has socially.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
Beyonce would be very she could be viewed both ways, so that'd be
both
interesting.
ways,
True
yeah,
Oh
depending
story.
yeah.
on
True
who
story.
you are, yeah,
Yeah.
and what you like. And
Yep.
yeah, there's tons of ways to view it. Maybe we'll bring you in.
Who knows? All right, so this has been Autodidactica. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back next month with Idols and Demons, whatever that means.
Yep.